think we're live. Let me see if we've got audio. Give this a second to refresh. Waiting. Hasn't caught up yet. So far, nothing. Wow, this is a longer delay than normal. There we go. Let's see if there's audio. We're good. Okay. So thanks for joining me tonight. I am, as you can see in the description, working in colored pencils. I'm still working on the Pelican. If you want to see what this one really looks like, if you go over to Instagram, I do have it posted there. What you're seeing on the screen is really blown out from the light. It's like super overexposed. So I guess it's kind of close. Definitely overexposed. So if you want to see what that looks like, he is posted over on Instagram. And then patrons, this section of the video is available for you now. So if you want to follow along with that one, make sure to head over to Patreon, where you've got both the reference photo and the almost 2-hour long tutorial for this section. So now we can start on the water. Yay! Oh, thank you. Yes, I need to record. How much time is on there? 11 hours. I think we're good. Okay. So let me get my chat open where I want it. 1 second. Oh, why aren't you letting me? Oh, I know. Hold on. Wait for it. You would think I don't do this regularly. How about chat? Let me refresh this. And we can start. Maybe. Assuming I'm not forgetting something else, which is pretty likely. There we go. Okay. I think I am all ready. Oh, thanks, Vanessa. Okay. So if you are asking questions tonight, make sure that it's highlighting the Lachri fine art. If it doesn't highlight in orange, I'm not going to see it. I normally don't really pay attention to the comments other than the ones highlighted in orange, just because it's you guys chatting. And every time I read one of those, and I always take things out of context, I'm like, wait, that's not right. But I was only reading part of a conversation. So I usually ignore those. Just make sure if there's something that you're actually asking, just the Lachri fine art, and like what Mara Black just did. Hi, Mara. And I will see what you're doing, or what you're asking, or I don't know, words. It's daylight for Kiara. Wow, it is dark here. Okay. And thanks, we'll start off by thanking the moderators tonight. We've got Valerie, Joseph Fincham. I'm not sure if, my brain just drew a blank. That's weird. Nick. If Nick's here tonight. But I've got links to their channels in the video description. So, head over, check out their stuff, subscribe, say thank you to them. Stina said, this is turning out so well. Thank you. I looked into some of your Prismacolor numbers to see ratings and such. Actually ran across your blog post comparing Prismacolor and Polychromos. Yeah, that video actually did well for me, for people finding me with colored pencil. I did not expect that when I made the Prismacolor versus Polychromos video. Had no idea. And it's funny how many people have accused me of just being paid to work for Faber-Castell just because I like them better. It's like, just because you have a preference doesn't mean you're paid by somebody to share that preference. But, yeah, that video was interesting. Okay, so this one, just because it did so much to, as far as YouTube getting that out there. So what I'm going to start working on right now is the water reflection on this guy. And I'm going to go back and hype up some of the color. And I talked about that on the Patreon video, if you've watched that, where there was a stage where the color was darker with the purples. And I wasn't done. I didn't intend to leave it that way. But then when I added more white, I actually liked what it looked like better when it was darker. So once I get the water in, once I can judge the values a little bit better, I'm probably going to go back through. I'm almost certain I'm going to go back through and darken up some of the purples. I really pulled in a lot of colors that were not in my reference photo. But because I used so many of those colors, I've got to pull the purples and such down here, even though, again, not in the reference photo. But if I've got the purples here, I've got to pull them down here as well. Ursi said, what will the water of the reflection have a blue tint? What will the water of, I don't think I'm reading that right. There's really not, there's going to be just as much blue as what's in the Pelican, because I've got to use very similar colors. In the reference photo, it's mostly like black and green. There's really not any blue at all. Mine, because my bird has blue, will require some. But mostly it's going to be grays, mostly grays, but I am going to pull some of the colors from the bird into that. So I'm just pulling out some colors that I want to use from my pencils. I have no idea. Like, one of the hang-ups that a lot of people have when working in colored pencils is they feel that they need to know, like, if I only knew the exact right color to use, my work would be more realistic. It would look better. It's not how art works. It's not even about the color in most cases. Choose the color you like. The thing that's going to make your work look more realistic, if that is your goal, is your values. Are your darks dark enough and your lights light enough? That is going to make all the difference in the world. So really, that's the thing to watch for. Don't worry about color. I'm just grabbing stuff out of my pencil kit. If it's the wrong color or I don't like it, I'll just put it down and try a new one. Experiment with things. That's how you're going to learn to get really good with color. But don't get too hung up on every single thing needing to be the perfect color to the reference photo. Plus, I mean, yes, there are times I like to copy my reference photo fairly, pretty exact. More often than not, I don't. More often than not, I want to make mine, like, what can I improve on that photo? What can I do to that photo to make it look more interesting? Plus, top that off with, are you working on a photo that a lot of artists are using? Like in this case, however many people on Patreon had access to this photo. A lot of artists are going to use this. What can I do to make mine a little bit different? I don't want it to look exactly like the photo. What can I do that ensures mine looks different than another artist using the same photo? I like to try to think about that. Again, there are times where I just want to copy something exact. There was a flamingo I did a while back that I did that on, but not on this one. Okay, I need more grays. Where did all my gray pencils go? Ah, found them. And okay, I thought I had the ones I was going to need mostly sharpened, and it set out, but apparently I did not. Okay, we're going to start with some of the darker ones. Maybe a purple. I'm playing with a sharpener I've had for a bit now. It's what does it say on this? Made in Germany, M&R, and it's got 3 holes on it. I must have gotten it from Blick or Amazon. I don't remember, but I've been testing that one out tonight. It works really well. I didn't even remember if I've used this one before. It's been sitting in my art thing for a while. I was having problems with my electric, which I just need to replace the blade. Something's wrong with it, but it was breaking my even polychromos, which that's impressive. If you can break a polychromos, that is impressive. So this sharpener has been really nice. Okay. I'm not having any trouble with things breaking on this one, which normally you don't with Prismas, or not Prismas. Yes, you do with Prismas, with polychromos, but I did here. Okay, let's see. Mara said, do you find doing reflections more difficult to differentiate them because of the black paper? No, it's actually going to be easier because I'm going to let the black paper work for me, and you'll see that as I get started. Grays for reflections looks extremely cool. Neat. I hope so. Carla said, hi Lisa, this is gorgeous. Can't get over how well the lights show up on the black paper. Yeah, me too. And it's not, okay, what you're seeing looks way brighter than what looks in person on this video. So that's why I say go over to Instagram. The link should be in the video description and look up this photo and you'll see much more accurate. It is not as bright as what you're seeing there, but it is still a lot brighter than I would have expected. Mara said, I mean, that the black shows those colors so nicely. How do you keep the reflection not so eye-catching? Okay, I just need the reflection. I'm going to make it a bit darker. It's not going to be quite as light as what I've got on the bird. So I'm actually going to just start in this little section between the reflection of his leg and then where his actual foot is. His foot isn't a reflection, it's just underwater. So let's just start pulling in a few of these colors. I'm resting my hand. I don't have glassine under my hand because I'm resting it. My wrist is resting on my easel. But normally I keep a piece of glassine under to make sure that I don't get the oils from my skin on my artwork. None of these colors are quite right in my hand. Ooh, this one should work. Let's find out. Airbrush with travel. I keep saying airbrush. A brush with travel said, I did that last week too, or last time. I have that sharpener. I think it's fabulous. Not easy to find though, especially in Australia. Postage is more than the cost of the sharpener. Ouch. Things get so expensive for you guys there. But you have koalas, so I think that kind of makes up for everything. Okay. The murder sessions said, let's see, Lizzie videos. You keep talking of light fast and values. What is this and why is it important? Okay, light fast is it's the way that we test pencils, or not just pencils, paint, anything. It could be fabric, it can be anything. There's a standard that we use to test either blue wool or ASTM, and it's used to determine how long a color will take to fade when exposed to sunlight. So the more light fast, the longer it's going to last. So like, let's say this one's a luminance colored pencil. Luminance, they're all going to last 50 to 100 years. They say in museum conditions. So that doesn't mean you're putting it in direct sunlight. So everyone likes to put their pencils, they'll do these little samples and they'll put it in direct sunlight and go, look, it faded in only a year. That's not museum conditions. That's indirect sunlight. That's not what that means. But it's still, I mean, even in indirect sunlight, things can still fade when exposed to light. So that's why we need to know what those light fast ratings are. So we know what is, going to be archival, meaning how it's going to last a long time, and safe to sell. Like, I wouldn't want to sell artwork that I did with, like, Inktense are known to fade, even though they've got good light fast ratings, but we don't know what that is once water's added. But people have reported them fading over time or fairly quickly. So I don't sell the originals, just prints of those, because I don't trust the light fast ratings once water's added. And again, I'm not saying, or just to clear that up, I'm not saying Derwent is lying on that. I'm saying we don't know what the light fast results are. But anyway, that's basically the gist of it. It's a matter of how long is it going to take for that to fade, because you don't want to sell something to somebody and them to come back in a year, 2 years, 5 years and be like, this isn't what I bought from you. Like, I bought something that was super bright and now it's faded because you used non-light fast colors or non-archival colors. So that's what light fast means. Values, it's just a matter of how light or how dark something is, basically. So you want, like in my case, I want to make sure my darks are dark enough, my lights are light enough. That's what's going to make a difference in how realistic your work looks, more so than the colors. I mean, I've got purples and pinks, and I've got all kinds of colors in him that he doesn't actually have. But he'll still look realistic when I'm done, just because my values are correct. My lights are light enough, my darks are dark enough. Let's see. Esme said, hi, long time no see. I wanted to ask which polys you used based on rating. Do you only use 3 stars all over them? I only removed, I think, 2 that were 1 star. They were like a purplish or magenta color. I forget. I have them pulled from my set, so I can't check. But there were only 2 of them that I pulled. The rest were fine. I'm comfortable with colors. Anything that's a 5, 6, or higher on blue wool, or a 1 or a 2 on light on ASTM, I'm good with. Actually, even a 1, 2, or a 2, 3, I would be okay, but I can't think of anything rated that way on ASTM. So there were only 2 that I pulled. Now, one of the things I want to point out is I'm doing the water reflections. I'm going to have little curves here. See, like this one curves, but look how they go mostly horizontal, mostly straight. Now, it might look like it's slightly angled just because the angle of the computer, the camera, but I want to make sure that I keep things pretty horizontal. I don't want the water to look like it's running down. Even if I've got, let's say there's a hill in the background, or like the shoreline was kind of coming out at an angle, I need to make sure still my water stays horizontal or parallel to the top and the bottom of the paper. Otherwise, your water looks like it's leaning, and that gets into a surreal look that you're probably not intending, and it doesn't look so cute. I mean, if you're going for surrealism, great. That's probably not the best way to do it, though. Brent said the October Smart Art Box was one of, if not the best one they ever had. Any chance you're going to do a video? Yes, I am, and I'm excited, and I just haven't done it yet, and it's sitting right, like, I can reach it and touch it right now. Both that one and I think, is it the November one that I have here? They both look great. I'm so excited. And yes, I will definitely be doing a video. I was actually just thinking about that as I was setting up. I think I'm going to do my projects for those, at least one of them for the October one that I'm behind on. I'm probably going to do that, or at least do the project tomorrow and then make the video for it. But yes, I'm actually really excited about both boxes, 2 boxes in a row here. Really happy with what came in them. And that's the thing with Smart Art Box. You have months where you're just like, I'm not impressed at all. Like, seriously, you sent me office supplies. That is not an art supply. Like, if that was a regular for them, I would not be interested in it. But then you have months like this that were just like really good boxes, great stuff. So you never know. The nature of subscription boxes. Vladimir said, do you recommend, if we can't afford smooth canvases like the Blue Label from Frederick's, we sand cheaper canvases? What I would do is get a gesso. Now, keep in mind, the gesso does matter. And some cheap gessos, like if it's a cheap canvas, the gesso that is on there may not adhere completely. And that's one of the things, I don't really talk about that often, but that is one of the things that makes Frederick so good. The way they do this process that basically the gesso binds to the canvas itself. So it's not going to come apart. Whereas some canvases, depending on what they gessoed it with, may flake off or kind of come apart over the years. They may not stick real well. It's not necessarily like super compatible. But as far as like something to paint just to get a good surface, yeah, gesso it and sand it. That's a good way to go. Whoops, scrolled too far. Michi said, I was recently told that the Caran d'Ache black is much more black or darker than the polychromos black. Have you found this as well? I don't think so. It's more opaque, but it's almost more gray. Like, I feel like the polychromos black is a richer black, but it may depend on the paper you're using or what colors you're layering it on top of. Like, I mean, that makes a big difference. No matter what black I use, I'm generally going to be putting blues and reds on top of it to make it even darker. But no, I wouldn't say that. I didn't find that it was, it's more opaque, but not necessarily like a richer black. I felt like it was a bit more of a, actually, I think that's what I used up here in the wings, which you can't really tell. It feels a little bit more chalky to me, whereas the polychromos, being that it's more translucent, you get more depth going through it, and it just looks deeper to me. But it could depend on the eyes or who's looking at it, or the paper you're using, sure, too, or how many layers are underneath it of colored pencils. Sedina said it would be nice to have different light fasting tests, like one for said sunlight, one for museum conditions, one for under fluorescent LED lights. I think you can look up charts what that would relate to under those conditions, but really, I mean, for art, you don't want it under direct sunlight. You should never store artwork, finished artwork, well, even in progress artwork, you don't want it in sunlight. That's just is not a good idea. There aren't any, and there's nothing, everything's going to fade when in the sun. I mean, that's just what the sun does. So it bleaches things out. So even though you can, and I'm pretty sure if you look it up that you can find where people have written out comparisons of what that's comparable to. I'm almost certain I've seen that on websites and blogs. It's still, the museum quality one is the one that really matters, because that is how people should be storing their artwork. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that they have that information out there, that how it like transfers from one to the other. Where I said, which brand of paper do you prefer that has the Truest black? I'm still testing that. I'm not going to tell you like one's the best or like this one. This one's their Conservation Board by Canson Conservation. Eric, it's listed under Canson Conservation's art boards on Dick Blick's website, but it's listed as the Conservation Board. I don't know if you're supposed to use this as a backing and not draw on. I don't know. I'm loving the surface, so I'm going to keep doing it. But I haven't tried the black. This one on the website looks darker, but when you see it in person, it's not that dark to me. It's more like what you're seeing right here on the video, at least on my computer screen, looks about accurate to what I'm seeing in person. It's not as light as the top, but it's not as dark as down here either. So like if I wanted it to be darker, I would need to take my black colored pencils and go over that. So, but I don't know what I would say is the Truest black. I'll have to get back to you on that. Vladimir said, what tooth does that black Conservation Board? It's very, very smooth, but it still sticks really well. It's kind of like the old Fabriano Artistico. Kinda, maybe not, maybe it's a little bit more smooth. It's not as smooth as vellum. Like it really does, the pencil sticks really well. You can tell that being how well these grays show up against them. If it didn't, have enough good tooth, these pencils wouldn't show up that well up against black. But it's not, so not as smooth as vellum, which is a good thing. I don't like working on vellum, but it's smoother than, I'm trying to think what it would be smoother than. I think it might be a little bit smoother than Arches, not much. I don't know. I'd have to test them all side by side. I haven't, here's the thing. I've not used this one that much that it makes it harder for me to compare. And you have a lot of people will do review videos. I mean, even myself included, that's just when you do reviews. But if you've only used something once, like I've seen people where it's like they've completed maybe 5 colored pencil pieces in their life, and they think that they're, they list themselves as being an expert on all colored pencils. Like, okay, you don't have that much experience yet. And so for me, I feel like that's the place I'm at right now with some of these papers. This one, I don't have that much experience with yet. So I don't want to give you bad information. It's one of those, I'm going to have to play with it a lot more in order to get a more accurate, I think, bit of info for you there. But it is smooth. I would say it's smoother. I don't know if I'd say smoother than Stonehenge. It's harder than Stonehenge. Stonehenge is really, really squishy. But yeah, I'm not giving you very helpful information at all. But I also don't want to give misinformation just because I'm fairly inexperienced in working in this specific paper. Once I do a few more pieces with it, I'll be able to say more. A Brush with Travel said, how reliable is the light fast of the ink used for making prints? Would that vary on where you get them done? Well, yeah, most of them are acid free, but it's the same thing. You don't want to put the prints in artwork. And it's funny because a lot of the printers, this is why I don't print prints myself. Well, I've never had a printer good enough to print prints myself. But the printers, they'll say, you know, that it's acid free, so it should last, but they fade super fast compared to stuff I've had printed at like Vistaprint. So, I used to have things on display when I was teaching out of Michael's, and they got bright indirect sunlight. And some of those that I printed on my own printer faded so fast, like scary fast, where I'm really glad I never sold prints off of that. Because I had a friend who was selling, this is years and years ago, so some of the printers, maybe they're better now, but she was selling prints of her work, and she was just printing them off her regular printer just like mine. And it was like, I just cringed because she was selling them for a fair amount. And I know how badly my stuff printed that I printed on that. So I'm not sure how happy her customers were. The stuff that I've had printed through an actual like print company, those didn't fade very fast, but we don't have like actual numbers to know what those were. I'm only talking, you know, able to speak from personal experience there. Ursi said, I like the pelican. You can see the marks clearly as strokes, and it looks very artsy. Way of doing a very artsy way of doing the best look style. Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of fun. I'm liking that you can get, like what I've got here, it's really grainy and gritty. You can get something that looks very much like like the old black chalkboards that we had in school. Well, if you're my age, you had them on school before whiteboards were really a thing, and with just regular chalk. That's what you can get, this really cool look. I want to do some pieces where it fades from that chalky look, and the colored pencils will give you the chalky look, fading into something that's super realistic, but leaving part of it. I have some ideas for playing with this and letting that paper, you know, getting that kind of a look. Help me to create that, or that this paper can do. I wouldn't be able to create that look easily on white paper. Just the way that this paper is working, I think it would give really neat results. Sarah said maybe your Prismacolor versus Polychromos video took off because you were comparing things. Yeah, definitely. And there weren't many videos out there talking about it. Most of the videos that were out there at the time, everyone was only using Prismacolor. There weren't a lot, while there are a lot of artists using Polychromos, there weren't a lot of videos talking about them. And so when people were looking for alternatives, there were a lot of people that were in the same boat I was, where you're just, you know, sick of the Prismacolors breaking and wanting to find an alternative. And so when you went looking for videos, there wasn't much. I was really lucky because I contacted Alan Woollett. He's the one I can thank for getting me started with Polychromos, because I loved the way his work looked, and I contacted him like, what are you using? And he told me the paper, the pencils, everything. So I went and got those and just loved them. But there weren't many videos comparing art supplies like that on YouTube. I don't think there was any, or maybe I just didn't see them, the Polychromos versus Prismacolor. I didn't do it thinking it was going to be a big deal. I just wanted to share with people my experience in case anyone was in the same boat I was, where they were just sick of Prismas breaking. And I didn't even realize back then, I hadn't really looked that much into Lightfast. That was just right around the time I started understanding the importance of Lightfast. Before that, I never worried about it. And so I'm glad I didn't sell any work with the Prismacolors, because I was using a lot of colors that were not Lightfast. But I don't think I sold any. I was doing them as trades with friends. But most of the work I was selling at the time were acrylics and oils, and those were all Lightfast. So yeah, I think just the timing was good because there wasn't a lot of other information out there. Where can one find the Canson Conservation Board? I got mine from dickblick.com. And I looked it up under Canson Art Board, but then the Conservation Board was listed under there. See, hi Lisa, just joined your Patreon literally a minute ago. Thanks. Super excited to check out your many videos you have there. Yay! If you go to my website, because the way that Patreon is set up, it's so hard to find what you're looking for. So if you go to my website, lachri.com, and I have this posted in all of all the newer posts, so you'll be able to find it there too. But go there. And under, like, right at the top, under, like, the little thing about Patreon, if you click the thing for the video library, I think I have the link in this video description, too. Go there, and you'll get a list of all the videos that have voiceovers. I don't have the ones that don't have voiceovers yet listed. I'm still working on those. But that's going to be the easiest way for you to find new stuff. So it's a good way to get started. Let's see. Rich said, sorry I'm late. I was playing Mario Kart 8. Now that you brought up the Liquitex Basic, now that I bought the Liquitex Basics introductory set of 6 I have paint, but now you are doing colored pencil. Well, you can go back and watch the old, it was last week. Go do the Raven from last week. That would be a good one. Or there was the copper banded butterfly fish, like intro to acrylic painting. It may be on the front page of my YouTube channel, but that one's a good project to start with too. Have I worked, or have I ever, Jesse wants to know if I've ever tried gouache. Just a little bit, not very much at all. Not enough that I have an opinion one way or another on it, other than I know it photographs really, really well because it dries matte. Or most of them. Maybe they have gloss ones too, but that's one of the big bonuses of the gouache. I loved how well it photographs. Sedina said, have you ever worked with acrylic with colored pencil on top? I've always thought of just trying it out to see how it would. I don't, because, okay, the only way that I think it would work for me and the way I work, the acrylic would have to be thinned so much that it wouldn't be at all glossy. Acrylic is plastic. Colored pencil doesn't stick to plastic that well. It kind of does, but mostly it doesn't. And then I don't even know what you would varnish that with, because it has to be something that's compatible both with the colored pencil and the acrylic. So it's not a mixed media that I personally have done or have any plans to do. I would rather do like mixed media, like watercolor, and then colored pencil on top of that, because those, you're using the same type of paper, and so it just all around I think is a better like choice for mixed media. I'm not saying you can't do something awesome without, but where am I? Okay, foot, you're here, so you are this one. I'm not doing the same exact, I'm letting this fade out to the paper, so looking at my reference photo is a little confusing. I don't need my lines to be exact either. That's not a big deal to me. I'm just kind of getting approximate lines here. But no, I've not done it just because, like, compatibility, like, yes, these are oil and wax based, they can go on top of a water base, but acrylics, being that they are a plastic, it's not gonna, you're gonna have a hard time getting the pencils to stick to it very well. Thanks, Xerxes. Nikki said, my husband got me a $200 gift card to Michael's for my birthday yesterday, and I was surprised. They don't have many Faber-Castell products. They don't have any polychromos at all. No, they don't. They're really just with the... They'll have some like generics, and then they have their Prismacolor. Although now they're starting to get some of the... what's it called? Those, we talked about it. One of you guys told me about it last week, and we just actually recorded a colored pencil podcast, so we'll be talking about that more soon. But the Winsor & Newton colored pencils, but I'm not super excited about those just yet. You'll have to listen to the podcast to find out why. I'll wait until the podcast goes up before I talk more about those. But I looked into them, and I'm like, they may be great, but, well, my biggest complaint, not open stock and no actual light fast tests that we can tell. They're, I guess I'm going to talk about it now. The Winsor & Newton colored pencils, they had talked about, or they say that they're light fast, but they don't give you any ratings. And people like Claudia Sketches, who's here on YouTube, she looked it up or contacted them, and they told her what she said in her video, which you can go watch. But her video review of them, which is really thorough, they said that they would forward her information. First, they said, yes, they perform very well in the light fast testing, but won't tell her what those ratings are, the numbers are. And then they said she contacted them again, like, well, what are the numbers then? And they were like, well, we'll forward your email to the appropriate team members, and no one ever got back to her. So I don't know what they think they tested. The problem that we have is some companies think, like, you can't just say, well, they said it's light fast, so it's fine. No, because, I mean, we knew back with when the Pro Color came out from Derwent, they were claiming that a 3 on the Blue Wool scale was light fast. Not a single artist who knows anything about light fast numbers would accept a 3 as being light fast. Like 5, 6 is as low as I would go. A 3, you're nowhere. That's going to fade in 2 to 15 years. So in museum quality conditions. So no, not light fast. So, you have, I don't necessarily trust a company telling me it's light fast. Tell me what the numbers are. What did it actually test as? That's what I want to know. And Winsor & Newton can't provide that, which makes me think, did you even test them then? Like you said, they performed well, but you didn't. If you tested them and they performed well, because those tests are expensive to do it, right? If you did it, then you would be bragging about that, like what Derwent in their light fast cut pencils. Like that's the big push, is Leah light fast, or Karen Dosh is constantly pushing. Look how light fast we are for the luminance. Companies don't just, if they don't not release the numbers if they're actually light fast, and so I'm not super excited. I'm hoping that they just had a really bad their marketing people are terrible. Maybe this is just, I don't know. But right now I've got a lot of questions and they apparently aren't providing answers, which is kind of weird. So anyway, that's all that Michaels really has colored pencil wise. You may check their website because sometimes their websites will have more than what you see in store. But there's plenty of other things you can spend the money on, I'm sure, at Michaels. Oops, scrolled too far. Nina said, "Do your hands ever hurt from holding pencils too long? Any tips for hand fatigue?" I move mine a lot. I stretch them a lot. And I've got arthritis. This is when my arthritis started. It started when I was a teenager in this hand and wrist. And I still am okay. My problems were pushing hard. Like when I used to burnish. And there are a few different ways you can blend with colored pencils. One is burnishing, where you're pushing really hard and jamming that pencil into the paper. That caused a lot of pain for me, and I had to find an alternative, and that's when I started using odorless mineral spirits. And so I don't push hard, and you don't want to push hard with pencils anyway if you're going to blend the way I do, because you'll damage the tooth of the paper, and that limits how many layers you can get. So for me, working this way with the light layers, like using a light hand and working in lots of light layers has been wonderful. So that I don't really, it is rare I have problems. And if it starts to hurt, it's because my arthritis was flaring up like crazy, usually because I ate something I shouldn't have, like baked potatoes or something like that. Like the high carb things really aggravate it. They're very inflammatory. So, but as long as I keep my diet good and I'm not having a flare up, I don't have problems from colored pencil itself. Lorraine said, "I recently bought Derwent Lightfast, had to buy from US as Australia is not getting them till 2019. Ouch. Very expensive. However, they are amazing. Love them." Yeah, I'm really impressed with them. I'm so glad that they're not, and actually, I don't have my setup. That's one of the things that I want to use on this, because, you know what, let's grab those. Now that you reminded me, hold on. Because they don't have that many colors available just yet with the Derwent Lightfast, but they have a lot of neutral colors, which I think is going to be kind of perfect for this. Oh yeah, these are some great grays. Let's pull some of these out. I'm probably going to put some of these back into the bird as well. Definitely, really on the top of my pencils that I love are these Derwent Lightfast. My main complaint, actually, my only complaint, there aren't enough colors. Like, I can't wait for new colors to be released. But performance-wise, let's see how this color looks on here. Ooh, that shows up nice. I'm almost like, well, it's a sharper pencil. I was going to say I'm almost like it better than the Caran d'Ache for this. But to be fair, the Caran d'Ache wasn't as sharp as this one is right now. So that might be why it's showing up more opaque, like it's getting in all the nooks and crannies more. So it makes it appear more opaque. But that's nice. Yeah, these are, I can't believe that Australia's not getting them to 2019. I guess it's not that far away. I cannot wait for more to come out. How does OMS work with, Rob asks, with the Conservation Board? It works perfectly fine. I use it all over. Now, one of the things that happens with it is, and I will see if it'll show up here, so it won't really damage anything. It gets, okay, when you add OMS, it kind of makes the colors a little bit more translucent, and because you're on the black paper, but it makes the black paper darker. You combine those two things, and it makes the area you worked on look darker than what it really is. In my case, it kept making it look better, and it would dry. I'm like, oh, I need to darken that back up. That's not as good as I thought it was. Let me find my brush, which I've apparently lost. Oh, there it is. I'm not sure if this is going to pick up on the webcam, but when you put it on, see how dark? I can't tell. See if you can tell. But it's like really dark. When it dries, I didn't do enough blending that's going to make much difference. But when it dries, it's going to lighten right back up to where it was. So it's partially it's dark because the Conservation Board, it's making darker, partially because it's making the colored pencils a little bit more translucent until they dry. So that combination is kind of, you just have to be aware of it as you blend on it. But as far as the actual blending and the results I got, perfect. It worked great. Now, what I do recommend, when you're using your paintbrush, don't oversaturate it. Like, let's say if I'm blending right around one of these feathers, I don't want to oversaturate it and have the paint thinner get all over the areas of the board that I want to keep black, because that can leave an oil stain. And I don't know on this, actually, let's make a mark and find out if it'll leave an oil stain on this, on an area that I know I'm going to go over with colored pencil, so I don't ruin anything. But we'll use a fair amount to find out. I'm going to put a big mark to see if that dries. So even if this leaves a stain, it doesn't ruin anything because I'm putting colored pencil on top of it. But some papers seem to stain, some seem to not, the colored or any toned papers when the OMS is added. And, well, I used a lot there, but I can actually smell it. If you can smell OMS, you know you used a lot. But the, like around the edges here, I don't want oil stains there, so I just barely use any paint thinner on my paintbrush. When I get into this area or in the inside of the bird, I can use more because it's all getting colored with colored pencil. It's not going to hurt anything. So we'll see as this sets if it dries completely or leaves an oil stain. Dina said, I've always used the matte acrylics, so would think it'd make a big difference using the colored pencils. They don't feel plasticky at all for mates. Try it. That's all you can do. Try it on a small thing and see if that works with the colored pencil, if it'll really stick or not. What I would probably do if I was going to mix it with colored pencil, I don't think I would want to work on canvas. I think I would work on like a paper that I gessoed, let it dry, then paint your acrylics, and then put your pencil on top of that is how I would test. But just do a test. There have been lots of times I didn't think something was going to work and it was the best thing ever. So definitely test that out. Beanie Draws says, howdy y'all, question, what kind of audience retention do you normally get? I find a struggle to get my art videos above 10% audio retention. Shorten them? I'd have to look at my stats. I don't know what they currently are. I don't know if I can even see on my phone right now. Let's see. And it depends on the video. I mean, certain videos are set up in a way that is going to naturally have more audio retention, whereas like a live stream tends to be kind of low because I start rambling and it's not really a lesson that you're going to watch beginning to end. So it would depend for sure on the video. I don't know if my YouTube Studio app is going to use this. Got watch time. No, it's not. I'm not. Oh, wait. Discovery. Audience? Will that tell me? Oh, 61% of you are female. The 38% male. I used to pay attention to this stuff way more. And I don't really, as much as I probably should. No, I'm not seeing, it's not giving me on this app. I'd have to look somewhere else. I don't remember what it is. Does it let me if I just look at the... No, it's not giving me any percentages. I don't remember. But try, I mean, if you feel like it's low, obviously 10%, you're probably going to want to go higher than that. What can you change to get people to... Whoops, throw your pencil on the floor. What can you change to get people to watch longer? Something, if it's low, there's a reason for it. You have to figure out what that reason is. I mean, getting people to click on the video is only part of the battle. Getting them to continue watching for longer. I'm going to use this kind of a reddish color now and blend that into the grays. That's going to be a bigger, a big challenge. So if your retention is low, that's a pretty good indication that you'll want to make some adjustments. Whether that be, maybe your videos are too long. Maybe they're dragging on longer than they need to be. I mean, I've seen videos where it's like somebody made a 20-minute video and it could have been cut down to 2 minutes and had the exact same information. So that's going to, if you keep rambling, where people would keep... kind of like what I'm doing here on the live stream where I'm like thinking while I talk, but their whole edited video was that. And maybe your editing needs to be adjusted. Maybe, try to figure out what's causing that would be a big thing. My first tip, watch video creators, Tim Schmoyer, video creators here on YouTube. He gives great advice. But yeah, I'm sorry, I can't give you my numbers. I'm not sure what they are right now. And Diane said, please tell me you did the pelican before the live started. Yes, I did. He's been a lot of work. This was all done before we started. Thanks, DJ. Let's get caught up on some of these questions here for a second. So you use mineral spirits, you don't have to push very hard. Very interested, never tried. Yeah, you don't have to. You have to have a lot of layers for it to work. One of the big problems that people have when they use mineral spirits is they think they can do, like what I've gotten here, just one layer, now blend it with mineral spirits and it's going to blend like watercolor pencils would. Not the same. It won't. What it's going to do is kind of dissolve it into the paper so it gets rid of that grainy, gritty look, but it's going to work best if you have many layers. So I'll usually have anywhere between maybe 3 to 5 layers and then blend with odorless mineral spirits, then 3 to 5 more layers, then blend, and I continue that process until I get it to look how I want. It's not watercolor pencil. Big difference. I need to do a video comparing the two, blending, and it does look like this is going to leave an oil stain. So yeah, you'd want to be careful around your edges. Glad I was careful about that. Yeah, it blends, but it doesn't blend the same way as, like I said, the watercolor pencil, you put it one line, it kind of spreads everywhere. With this, when I blend, I've got to have a lot of pigment on the paper in order for it to work well. And how weird. I don't even know why this orange was in my hand or when it got in my hand, but I need it now, so that's convenient. I just need to block out approximately where that's going to go. For his leg. But yeah, get lots of layers. You don't want to push hard, but you still want lots of layers. And it's easy to think, well, I'll just push harder, and that way I don't have to put as many layers. Yeah, but then you're limiting how many layers you potentially could put. You do limit yourself if you push too hard. So I'm not sure how helpful that is. Rich said, is Derwent Lightfast like Pro? Oh, that just scrolled too far. Let's go back up there. Is Derwent Lightfast like Pro Color but better? And also, what is the best Derwent or good colored pencils I should get for Christmas? Oh, that's a hard one. I don't have one set of pencils where I'm like, this is the only pencil I would need. Definitely, I mean, Polychromos and Luminance I used forever. They were really good. The problem with Lightfast, okay, the Derwent Lightfast pencils are amazing. Not enough colors. That's not going to be your only set. So if you're new to colored pencil, I would probably not get those right now. I would wait until more colors come out, because as great as they are, there's no way that's enough colors. Like, I'm definitely disappointed in how few colors. Some of the colors in there are amazing, and I'm really happy to have them, but there aren't enough. So if it's a first-time colored pencil artist, that would not be the set that I would necessarily recommend. Not because they're not great, but because you just don't have enough colors yet. There's only, what, 32, 34, 30-something, 36, I don't remember, colors available right now. And one of the biggest complaints I have with that one, the red is an orange red. It's not a true red, so you can't blend a lot with it. And the blue is not a true blue. It's like a dark, dark purpley blue. It's not, you don't have the main colors. If you had at least those two, you could blend from there to anything, but you're missing those. And hopefully they'll come in the future sets. But right now, those sets are really going to be good or best for artists who have other colored pencils already and are just mixing them in with their current set. Whereas, so I'm not sure how helpful that is. The Pro Color is amazing. I love the performance. They've got great colors, but they're not all Lightfast. And like almost half of them are not. So if you're going to be selling your artwork, probably not the set you want. If you're just learning colored pencils and you have no intention of selling, then that is a very, very good set. Love the performance of the Pro Color. The Prismacolor, or not Prismacolor, the Pro Color, gosh, words are so hard. Polychromos are a harder pencil. They're not as opaque, so like I like them for fine details. They work for soft blending too, but it's easier to get a lot of soft blending if you're using a wax-based pencil like the Luminance. So, and those ones are all Lightfast, but one of the more expensive brands out there. There's just pros and cons to everything. All of the pencils are good for different reasons and bad for different reasons, so that's not helpful at all. Good luck choosing. Judith Hunter said, are the Derwent pencils oil or wax based? Can you use both together on one painting? You can use both oil and wax on one painting. The Derwent Lightfast pencils are oil based. They said they're oil based, but they've definitely, like, all pencils are oil and wax based. There's a combination in clay and there's all these other things in them. They're all a combination of both. It's a matter of how much. And so when we say oil based, it just tends to have more oil. The Derwent Lightfast isn't as oily oily is not the right word either. It's not that it feels oily. It's like more translucent and harder lead as the Polychromos. They are much waxier. They feel closer to the Pro Color. They feel closer. I would have guessed, if someone didn't tell me they were oil based, I would have guessed that they were a wax based. They're kind of a somewhere in between. There is definitely a difference there, but you can use both on one. I mean, I use oil and wax based all the time together. How do I choose my projects? Lori asked. So many things. Sometimes I get random ideas. Like there's a project that I'm working on still. I've got it sketched out, but it's not, I'm not actually starting it yet. Oh, this is really brown. I don't want brown. You can go back there. I need more grays. Sometimes that isn't sharp at all. Oh my gosh, where is my sharpener? Sometimes it's a photo that I took that I really liked, like in this case. Sometimes it's a photo that I found online that I really liked, and I got an idea on like the tiger I did not long ago. I wanted to add fireflies to that, so that's how I chose that one. It can be whatever catches my interest, basically. Rob said, we watch it all. Best instruction I have ever received. My art has drastically improved in the year or so. That's awesome. DJ wants to know what size this is. It is a 16 by 20 inch. Sedina said, okay, what size canvas do I like to work best with? Completely depends on what I'm working on. I would say overall, 18 by 24 inch I really like because it's kind of, I can get pretty good detail, but it's not huge, but it's also not too small to get the good detail. But it depends, I mean, completely on the piece. Like the piece that I'm going to do next with the lion and the coral and all that stuff, that's got to be big. So that one's going to either be a 24 by 30 or a 24 by 36. I don't think I have anything bigger than that. It has to be big to accomplish what I want out of it. So that's just going to depend on what it is that I'm working on. I'm going to do another one with the same concept if this one works out with the zebra. And that one will probably be an 18 by 24. I don't need that one to be as big because it'll only be his head, not from another photo that I had recently taken from Patreon. I don't know if I gave it to you guys on Patreon. You'll get it if I didn't. Let's see. Whoops. Tiffany said, I'm new to your channel, but what is the best colored pencil for beginners specifically that are cheap? Have you used the brand Artzea and do you like them? I've not used Artzea. Wait, actually I technically have used Artzea. I bought them for my nephew to play with his coloring books. I've not done an actual project with them, so I can't say too much. For completely cheap, I would say the Marco Refine. Was it the Marco Refine or the Marco Renoir? The more expensive one, the oil-based one. Those ones were really good. That was actually decent to get somebody started on if you're going for cheap. Keep in mind, not light fast at all. So, but those ones I actually did think were pretty good. I reviewed one for a coloring book, and it was, I used it in a, I can't remember which one is which. Maybe one of you guys can comment in the thing. I get them mixed up. I think it's the Renoir ones. Renoir, whatever, I can't talk. Those ones, the oil-based, or they're kind of oil-based, those ones I liked better. Those ones were actually pretty good. I would say somebody who's just wanting to get started and learning, that was a good set, and it was fairly inexpensive. Not light fast at all, though, so definitely keep that in mind. But Artzea, I don't know. Artzea's kind of weird. They're pushing their products really hard, and I question what some of their claims on light fast and stuff are. Just because, I don't know, there's just some weirdness with their marketing that kind of makes me uncomfortable. I don't know, maybe I'm just being weird. They do a lot with trying to get YouTubers to promote their products, which I'm not against anyone who does, but it seems like they want you to promote it and then get a affiliate link to sell more, or like they try to really get you to push the product heavier than what, like, for me, it's not a professional brand, so it's not a fit for my channel. I guess that's the better way to put it. It may be great to get started with. I'm not sure. I've heard some good things. I've heard some bad things. Completely up to you. But because I'm not going to get into pushing their products too heavily because they're not a professional brand. So I'm sure someone's going to argue with me on that, but whatever. Let's see. And they may be okay. I mean, I was fine with them in the coloring book, and I was layering, but I did not try blending with odorless mineral spirits or anything like that with those yet, so I don't know. But they actually had contacted me. They wanted me to promote, what they're doing with everybody, get everybody to promote their product. I think I would rather buy it on my own on that one because I suspect I'm not going to love it. And I definitely don't want to get involved with their contracts and any of that. So I think, they're cheap enough. I can just buy a small thing and test them. But I don't know. I don't really want to get into, I have too many companies contacting me, wanting me to test the cheap products, and I'm really more focused on professionals and fine art stuff, so I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time doing that, I guess, is an easier way to sum that up. Nick said, Derwent Light Fast, when the new colors come out, do you know if they will be released in a second set, or will it be a full set of 72? We have no idea. None at all, unfortunately. They really haven't given us much information with that. Jello said, hi, I'm thinking about doing workshops for kids over the holidays. What would you charge and how many kids would you be able to handle? I've taught classes before, not workshops. Well, it depends on the age. That makes a big difference. I mean, when you give me a bunch of 6-year-olds, I can handle 3. Depending on how out of control they are and how well, like how much did their parents teach them manners and to listen in class. And I mean, kids are kids anyway, so they're going to get kind of excitable. But I found when I was teaching kids, it really made a difference how their parents had been raising them. Some kids were just out of control all the time, and the parents never like told them to be calm, or, you know, you can't run all over the store from one end to the other nonstop with water running down you and use up every paper towel in the classroom when the teacher's back was turned. That was a fun day. So yeah, I mean, that definitely depends on the age. Now, you give me a bunch of 12-year-olds, and I would say 10 is pretty comfortable. Well, see, and it also depends, though, on how much time you want to, individual time you want to spend on each kid. So you get into like 9, 10, 11, 12, 8-year-olds even, the kids will do 2 brush strokes, and then their hands are raised because they want the next step, even though they really should have spent another 20 minutes on the first step you just gave them. So that can be definitely a challenge. You may want to have some assistance with you. And you've got to figure out what you personally can handle. What you can handle may not be the same as what I'm comfortable with. So I can't say, in the age really, really makes a difference. Once the kids got to be 12 or older, or older than 12. 12 was kind of like right on the border. Some 12-year-olds acted younger, some were older, but 13, I would say then for sure. 13 on up, they were basically the same as adults. You gave them instructions, they were on their own, they're good. But the younger the kids, the less kids I could handle. Just because they want nonstop, okay, what next? Okay, what next? Even though because they don't have the attention span to sit and really focus and work in most cases. And as far as what to charge, again, it depends on the kids, depends on what you're teaching. Are you supplying the supplies? There's just too many factors in there for me to really say. Rich said I might get Pro Color because I don't really think I'm going to sell my artwork, since I might just keep them in my sketchbooks or put it in the sketchbook, cut out the page. That Pro Color, wonderful to work on. They're definitely one of my favorites performance-wise, so you would not be sorry there. Cindy Reed said, I missed the beginning. Can you explain the board paper you're drawing on? Does it come in black? It does come in black. Do you have to do anything to prep it? Nope, nothing to prep it at all. And the links to all the stuff I'm using are in the video description, although that's not a link, just the name of what I'm using. Lori said, what are some of the very first paintings when you were younger and starting out? What were some of your very first paintings? I always drew a lot as a kid because I was always sick. I have an autoimmune disorder, well, celiac disease, but we didn't know that, so I was sick all the time. I need to darken these up a lot. As I'm looking at this, let's see if I can get some darker colors. So I spent a lot of time drawing. So by the time I was because I got to go outside and play. I don't want to make it sound like it was the saddest story in the world, but I did spend a lot more time indoors than most kids did drawing. I was perfectly happy to sit by myself and draw. And are there other grays in here? That is not okay. So by the time I was about 12 is when I started, like, I'm going to draw more realistically, like really copy what I see out of a book. I'd find a book of anything and just copy that. Those are still not what I need just yet. Hold on, I've got to find a darker grayish color. Actually, I'm going to be mixing. Ooh, see what happens when I put. That is what I'm going to use. I like this purple. So, when I started, it was horses were the main thing. Once I got to that stage where I was like, I'm going to take this more seriously than just coloring books and, drawing rainbows and stuff when I was a kid. But horses were my big thing. And then after that, birds. My mom had this book of parrots of the World, I think it was called. Big. I mean, this book was thick. Well, okay, I was a kid, so I remember it being that thick. It was probably more like that. But it was a thick, thick book, and it had all these art pieces. They were art pieces, or paintings, drawings. They looked like they were pastels to me. I could be wrong on that. But they were these drawings or paintings or whatever of different parrots. And so I had cheap charcoals not charcoal, like chalk that you were supposed to use on a chalkboard, but they were colored slightly, and I would use those. That's when I started drawing. I remember cockatoo was one of the first ones, but I started just practicing drawing by copying what was in that book. I'm really liking this pencil on top of that white. That is perfect for what I want. So I started drawing those, and then by the time I'd say I was probably 15 or 16, I really got into orcas. I mean, I always loved them, but I started wanting to draw them constantly. 17 and then on until around 2005, everything I drew was sea life. Orcas and whales. And dolphins all the time. So that is what my first paintings were. Rich, that just scrolled too far. Your Derwent Pro Color video made me start watching you. Oh, really? That's cool. That was the leopard, right? I still have that paint. I love it because that one, being that I use Pro Color and being that the colors were not light fast, I can't sell it, which means I get to keep it. And that kind of makes me happy because I really liked that piece. Will I ever do a sketchbook tour from an old sketchbook? Yeah, I need to. I never finished my sketchbook, so that's kind of a problem. But I'm starting to draw out my ideas and notes in this new sketchbook art journal. I've done it before. I have an old one that I could share, but I started doing it again recently. So yeah, I'm going to have to share that when I get further along in it. Pix Bailey said, I've seen her at Xana just about everywhere, especially all summer and early October. There are YouTubers using them and tons more ads. I mean, everywhere. Oh yeah, they are absolutely everywhere. And it's almost like a flood of, and I mean, I can't say that it's bad. It's just weird. The marketing is kind of weird to me. I don't know. I'm being judgmental and it may be perfectly fine. And I'm just being judgmental. Maybe they're the most amazing supplies ever, but I don't like a lot of the, I think those ones are from China, aren't they? And I don't like a lot of the colored pencils from there. Some of them are claiming they're light fast, but they never actually, when you talk to the company, they're like, oh yeah, we didn't actually light fast test them. Although our Zaya actually has a star system on theirs. But I don't know, they're pushing so heavily with the market. Okay, here's my bigger thing. I don't trust new art companies as much as older companies because I feel I feel the same way. Thoughts are all over my head. I feel the same way with like when Hobby Lobby came out with their generic paints. This isn't what you do. You're kind of half doing it. You're making the generic version, and I don't think that they're researching enough as much as like Golden's or Liquitex or some of these other brands. And so I'm kind of hesitant. I'll let you guys decide or find out if they end up causing problems in the next 10 years. I'm afraid to use them too much in my own artwork and find out that they did rush through the process. They didn't test things properly. They weren't very good. I like to stay with companies that seem to know what they're doing more, have more experience, and that sort of thing. Art Zaya seems to have jumped into, we're going to create every single type of art supply the world has ever seen, and I'm just not sure. And this is just me being paranoid. There's no fact or basis behind this other than me being paranoid. I'm like, how did you just jump into the scene 5 minutes ago and you suddenly are like the expert on making all of these supplies? I just don't trust it. Wow, I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I'll let everybody else figure out if they're good or not, and I will keep using stuff I trust. Ads Purse said, you prefer the Conservation Board over Arch's hot press for colored pencil work? I can't say I prefer one or the other yet. I definitely don't. I haven't used either one enough. This is what I was talking about earlier. It's like I haven't used either one enough that I feel like my opinion is valid. I don't have a set opinion on it yet. So far, I've liked them both. I've liked the work I created on them both, or so far, at least on this one. I've never used this blackboard before with the Conservation Board, but I don't feel like I can give you a definite this one's better, that one's better. I need to use them both a lot more in order to make that an educated judgment on that. I think with colored pencils with Arches, I've only done one piece with those so far. So I definitely need to do some more. I've got a bunch of the paper. I ordered some big sheets of it. I just haven't done anything on them yet. Although right now I'm surprised. I think part of it is the novelty of working on the black paper because I'm surprised how much I'm enjoying it. I'm surprised how much I like the results that I'm getting. But I don't know. I may get bored with that too. Let's see. Is that OMS staining or spreading? It is staining. It is definitely not spreading. And I used OMS all through here. And you can see it doesn't spread at all. But it's only where I put it. But it does seem to have spread. It's lightened a little bit. But it's a little bit lighter than what it's showing on the video. But it's definitely left a stain. So I wouldn't want a chance. And it may dry out all the way. I'm going to guess probably not. And I put a lot on there, though. Valerie said she's about 6 weeks into Lightfast testing the Art Zaya colored pencils. I don't have high hopes. I mean, maybe they'll end up being awesome. I could just be completely wrong on that. I'm definitely more paranoid, I think, than the average person too, because, and I've told this story many times, but I like how this blue looks with this. Years ago, I was trying different products that were not artist grade at all. Like I bought Varnish or linseed oil, that's what it was, from the hardware store to use on artwork. Don't do that. That's not what that's made for. But like after I sold work, it was only a couple of paintings that were sold this way, and they were only sold for like $40, so it wasn't like a expensive painting. But the stuff after like 6 months or 4 months, I forget how many months, it started to yellow and lift away from the canvas. So it was like these drips that weren't there. I don't even know how this happened. I don't understand how. Like it appeared out of nowhere, and after months and months and months, and yellowed like crazy. So anyone who bought those paintings, their work was ruined, and it was because of my own. Well, I mean, the internet wasn't really a thing back then. I couldn't research things like I can now, but I don't know. I'm more paranoid about the supplies that I use since that. That's why I don't sell like the watercolor pencil work I've done, even though if I was using light fast colors. Right now, I don't sell that. I don't sell Inktense. I'm too paranoid about feeling so guilty about selling something that was because of my lack of research or whatever. And that's, so you have to keep that in mind. I know I'm extra paranoid because of that incident. Let's see. Whoops. Diane, no, I do not have the board taped. It is loose. It's a like board. Like it's kind of like matte board, or like what you would mat your artwork with. It's thicker. It's up against a board, but it's not taped down at all, which is kind of nice. Carolyn said, hi Lisa, saying thanks for your honesty and your reviews. Could you show how to make contrast pop? Maybe a project for a newbie, or if you already have, where can we view it? Really, I mean, with the contrast, the thing to do it, I don't know if I have a video specifically for that. I guess all of mine, I talk about that. But make your darks really dark, make your lights light. And one of the things that you can do if you're not sure oh my gosh, I am loving this blue with this pink here. This is not what my reference photo looks like at all, but oh, it looks pretty. I'm happy. See, play with colors. You never know you may find something that you weren't expecting. But anyway, with making, what I like to do is take a photo on my phone, mess with the color saturation, mess with your contrast there, make things darker on the phone, and if it looks better, go and make your art look like what it looked like on your phone. I think that's the biggest tip I can give you on being brave and doing getting those colors to pop like that. Like, see what it looks like on a phone with a photo editor, because most of our phones have those, and then make your artwork look like that if it looked better. Let's see. Pix by Lisa, did you have a My Little Pony phase or Disney characters? My Little Pony I did have a lot of. Disney, Little Mermaid was my favorite. And now, Lilo and Stitch. But yeah, My Little Ponies I think was bigger for me, but like kid toys back then, I never drew any of those. But kid toys, like toys I like growing up, Voltron and Thundercats were my absolute favorite, in addition to My Little Ponies. Gail said, I took the leap and bought 72 Art Zaya colored pencils, the expert ones. They have 2 lines of colored pencils. I'm completely new to colored pencil art, but so far no complaints, so that's good. Yeah, I've heard real mixed reviews. Let's see. Hunter said, interested Art Zaya 2 watercolors. They perform like cheap Chinese watercolors, and they are packed hard with fillers. Not impressed. Pigs by Lee said, you already know I have to be wary of products due to allergies. Yeah. Jenna said, how do you feel about sealing pencil work with spray varnishes like Krylon? Does the UV spray help with less light fast pencils? So my first tip, always test it, because one spray may work beautifully with one type of pencil, and it may have a horrible reaction that makes all kinds of weird things happen with the colors and everything else with another brand of pencil. So my first tip is always make, like, whatever paper you're going to use and whatever pencils you're going to use, make a sample test of that and then see if that spray works. I don't personally spray any of mine because they don't need it. Like, the only time I have to spray my colored pencils are if I'm using powder blender, because on sanded paper it like would rub off easily, and I use the one that powder blender or Brush and Pencil make, their final fixative. That's it, and that's fine with all the pencils I've used on that. For making things more light fast, yes, they do, and that's a good idea. And using a UV protecting glass is also a really good way to go. But like I said, you've got to test all the sprays before you go onto your artwork. Like, don't finish a beautiful piece and then try a new spray on it, because it may behave or perform horribly. So always test that first. But yeah, I mean, anything that's going to improve light fast is a good thing. I would do that for something that wasn't going to be light fast, but I don't know that it would still make me comfortable to sell something. Like if I used pencils that were like rated a 2 or a 3 on Blue Wool, I'm still not going to sell it, even if I use those things. I may want to give it to a family member and just put it behind UV glass then so it doesn't fade, but I also don't feel guilty if it fades, if it does end up fading over the years, because they're family. They accept my flaws, and they didn't buy it. Now, anything you can do to make them more light fast is a good thing, but the pencils that I use don't require a spray. They're all light fast, and they don't require a spray, so there's that. Jello said, heard you watch Voltron. Have you watched the recent remade show? No. Or actually, no, Voltron I have not, but I did see the Thundercats had one, and it was the most ridiculous horror. Like, it looked like a joke. It wasn't the animation on it. I did not, like, I have no interest in that. That's no for me. So let's get back into this a bit more. I also had one of my favorite toys when I was a kid, like all the way through, I must have been like 12 and I still loved this thing. Gosh, what was it called? It was a cat. It was basically like if you made Roomba into a cat. It was a bit smaller and it was rounded like a half circle, and it had a tail sticking out and 2 ears, and then of course the eyes, and you could clap your hands to make the cat like roll this way, now roll that way. I dragged that thing around with me everywhere for so long. I loved that thing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and blend this, my first layer of blending with OMS. So when I did my paintbrush in the OMS, I have a piece of Viva paper towel. If you don't have Viva, and it needs to be the brand Viva to work well with OMS, not like Bounty because it spreads all over. Oh my gosh, my nose is itchy like today and yesterday. It's driving me crazy. Allergies, I'm guessing. But you don't, when I dip in the OMS, I always wipe some of it off. I don't just go there and go straight on the paper, except here where I was testing because I wanted to see what would happen if I added a lot. But you'll see as I go just on the area, it's going to make it a little bit darker, but I'm only putting the OMS where the area I want to blend is, and that way I don't have big oil stains all over the place. Actually, I'm going to switch brushes to one that's a little bit thinner because these are tiny areas. And see how it looks really dark, but it's going to lighten right back up as it dries. But I don't want to, like if I was on white paper, I would just probably be blending over everything and not going around the black. But I don't want to chance this staining areas that are going to be black. Although the areas that are black, I'll probably put black pencil on anyway. But just in case, I'm going to work a little bit more slowly. And I find that the pencils blend so nicely into this paper for getting rid of that grainy, gritty look. Like you can leave it kind of how it is now where it's not super blended, and that will give you that more like the blackboard with the chalk look. Or you can do more layers and blend with the OMS and have it blend completely smooth. I'm really happy with how the colors have been blending on these papers. And the only other time I used this specific type of paper or the artboard was my white one that I did with the airbrush and colored pencil. I did use colored pencil over that, and that worked beautifully too. So I'm going to be buying a bunch more in different colors, and maybe even just the white, a lot of the white ones. But I have a feeling that's going to be one of my favorite colored pencil board type surfaces to work on. I'm loving it being on a board. I'm really happy with the results that I'm getting and how well the pencils stick and blend. Like it seems to just be a really nice balance of smooth and tooth, like all the way around. It's just, I'm happy. I'm liking it. So like here where I added the orange, I don't have enough pigment. So this paint thinner is not going to do much. It's going to still be really grainy and gritty because I didn't put very much orange. I didn't put much of anything there. So blending with OMS really doesn't do me any good until I get more pencil on the paper. I'd say that's probably the biggest challenge when people say the OMS doesn't work, I don't like the results I got. You probably don't have enough pigment on the paper. That's usually the problem. More layers. And don't expect it to act like watercolor. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start pulling in a few of the lighter areas. Now this, I need this to dry before I go over anything else, and I'm going to outline a few of these with brighter whites, but I'm going to go ahead and start working over here. This is going to be a little bit brighter than these. And let's see, I I think I'm going to use a lot of the Derwent Light Fast. I'm going to play with some of these. I haven't gotten a chance to use them that much. I don't know what colors I want to use right now. I'm just grabbing random things. Okay, let's see. So that's the brighter white. Let's get some of these gray. So right now, everything can be fairly rough. I don't need anything to be perfect. I'm going to clean stuff up and get more accurate as I move on with future layers. Right now, I'm just really focusing on blocking in where my general shapes are going to go. And I'm just working in little ovals. And don't be afraid to work on something. I mean, it's easy when you first start something to almost be so paralyzed with fear that you don't get much done. You're just like, I'm afraid to touch it. I'm afraid to mess stuff up. Get in, just get started. There's not much you can do that you can't fix, and learning how to fix mistakes is a big deal anyway. So if you make mistakes, look, you're just helping yourself to learn better or to learn more things. Don't give up when you make a mistake. Figure out how to fix it. I mean, the only mistake you're really not going to be able to fix, or one of the, I'm sure there's others, but putting a hole through your paper. Okay, you can't really fix that. You could kind of tape it, kind of finish it, but you're obviously not going to sell it. But other than that, figure in, if you're not pushing very hard, that's a big thing too. I mean, I'm not putting much pressure on my pencils, and that means I'm really not limited at all on the layers I'm going to be able to get on this. If I push hard, I instantly limit myself on how many layers. And I am not worried at all about my water being exact to my reference photo at all. I'm just focusing, get my lights where they need to go, get my darks where they need to go, get it close. It does not need to be exact. This probably not dry enough just yet. Let's see. DJ said, how long in hours is this piece taking you to do? I think I want to say it was like 6 hours in footage, not counting the 2-hour live stream. I think it was something like that, 5 hours, 6 hours. But that's where, I'm pushing pause when I go to take a break. It's not, just 6 hours in one day type thing. I spent most of the time, I had the beak, or most of the beak around the face. I did that on the one live stream. So that was 2 hours, which if I wasn't on the live stream, it would have really been more like 20 minutes. But then the head and the body I did in pretty much 2 days. I worked on that, or 2 nights. Thanks, Circes. Chelsea said, any future projects you can spill the beans about? Yes. So the one that I'm starting right after this one is going to be a big one. It's going to be in acrylics. I'll use acrylics and airbrushing. Not as much with the airbrushing, mostly hand painting. And it's going to be a lion. I've even got the colors and everything based out, but it's the full lion's body. And his mane is going to be coral and anemones and like just stuff from the ocean. Fish are going to be swimming all around, but he's not really underwater. He's out of water, but part of the, I don't know, I'm mixing those. Octopus is going to be involved. But yeah, that's going to be, it may be the worst idea I ever had, but I think it's going to be cool. I'm excited about that one. So that one, I cannot wait to start. The painted hairbrush, I like your name, said, at which layer should the results stop looking grainy? Usually when I get, okay, blend like 3 to 4 layers or 3 to 5 layers, blend out, 3 to 5 layers, blend out, 3 to 5 layers should, so that third time around should start not looking so grainy, but it depends on the paper. And it depends on how much pigment you have. I mean, if you are adding more pigment in between blending out, you're not going to have it as many times of having to blend out to get it to look not grainy. The paper makes a big difference though. Some paper requires more than others. Marilyn. Let's see. Kylie said, long-time stalker, first-time commenter. I just wanted to say you're such a fantastic artist and teacher, and I owe my return to art to you, so thank you. That's so awesome to hear, and thank you. Chelsea said the Lion Project sounds fantastic. Can't wait. Yeah, I'm really excited about that one. That's, I go back and forth. I'll have things that are less unique, and then, it's easy when you have something, okay, the octopus I did back in what? It was the beginning of the year, I think. The octopus and his hands are going into the bowl with the whole ocean scene inside the bowl thing. That one, I'll have ideas like that hit me, but it's not every single painting. So I'm not going to sit around, and this is just a tip, because a lot of people, you'll finish something like that, and then my next painting has to be as creative. It's got to top that last one, and then they don't get any work done. If that were the case for me, I wouldn't have gotten anything done all year. But instead, I've got all of these pieces in between that I love, the stuff that the tiger and the fireflies, I wouldn't have gotten that done, and that's one of my favorite paintings ever. A lot of these things wouldn't have happened if I just sat around waiting for another idea that's as unique as the octopus one. So, but yeah, every once in a while I get these really random ideas. I don't even know where the idea with the coral and the lion, half my ideas come in that stage halfway between awake and asleep. Usually when I'm taking naps, right there, that almost awake, almost asleep, my brain is kind of working, and I get the really random stuff there. This is really weird, the way the water moves around the feathers. It's you can see that they're feathers, but they're ripples in the water. Really odd. So it's switching directions in a way the rest of the bird is not. Oh, hope your migraine goes away, Heather. That sucks. That is not fun at all. That has got to be one of the hardest things to deal with. You can't function with a migraine. I find that this paper is pretty forgiving too. If I have pencil strokes going in directions I don't want them, as a layer, I've not had any trouble getting rid of them. Sometimes the type of pencil you're using will make a difference in that, and sometimes definitely will, in this case, the paper. Things are just blending really nicely. Yeah, and if you guys are drawing tonight, use on Instagram, if you use the hashtag Lachri Live, I follow that hashtag thread or whatever, so I get to see your work. Now, when you're doing the water reflections, a big mistake a lot of people make, myself included, when I was a teenager, I used to think this. You would just mirror, I could trace out the bird on, tracing paper and use transfer paper, just flip it upside down, and then it's exact. It's a mirror image of that. And that's just not how reflections work. Completely depends on what angle you're looking at it. So, here, because of the angle that I took the photo, I came down this way. This part of the beak is, you're seeing more of the underside of his beak than the side angle. So don't think you can just reverse or do a mirror image, a flip, and have your water reflection look realistic. It's just not how reflections work. And yeah, it doesn't have to be exact, but you don't want to do just a mirrored image there. It's pretty obvious that that's not right. Steve said, I can draw realistic pictures using a reference photo. I showed some people in my class, high school, my drawing, and they said it wasn't good because I was using a reference photo. High school kids, I'm sorry. They're just so inexperienced, yet they think they know everything. I know, I used to be one. They're wrong. They're 100% wrong. I don't know why high school kids think you have to draw everything from your memory or it's not good. That's not how art works. Ask them any single artist they like. And that you tell them that's not how it works. I mean, if you're working in photorealism, you have a photo. It's in the name of the type of art you're doing. Or you have a model, that you can paint or draw from. All of the best artists throughout history, I'm not take that out because it just sounded like I'm including myself in the best artists in history, but did not come out right. But all of the best artists in history, like Michelangelo, all of those, they had reference, not photo. They had a person that they could use. It's not from their brain, like memory. That's not how art works when you're working in something that's super realistic. If you're working in something like animation, like cartoon type things, or the anime, any of that, yeah, you're going to go from memory there for most of it. But when you're working in photorealism, you're going to use a photo. That's how it works. I don't know why high school kids get this idea in their head, like they don't understand how things in the world work, but they're the most obnoxiously overspoken in things when it comes to, again, I was one of them, I understand, and luckily they outgrow that, hopefully. But yeah, no, that is not how art works. They're just inexperienced, and as time goes on, and one of the things that you can do when they think that, say, okay, here's my photo, you draw, you go ahead and draw it, I'll let you use the same photo, can you still do it as well? Probably not. They think that like it's some cheat button, and it's like, no, it's really not. Now my reference photo, the lines get way shorter in here. I'm going to leave mine longer for the water ripples. I'm not going to have as many short lines as what the reference photo has. I'll have a few, but not many. But no, your friends are just, they don't know yet. They don't understand how it works, but because of being teenagers, they think they know all the things. Luckily, we usually outgrow that. Marilyn said, I love and trust you so much. I'm getting that new Grex air compressor and airbrush. Oh, congratulations. I love mine. I am so in love with that. That's another reason, honestly, I'm super excited about the next painting, because I'll use it a little bit in the background and I can't wait. Like, it sits here and I just pet it sometimes and my paper towel is stuck to it. But I just want to pet it. I love this thing. I'm like, yeah, I'm a bit attached. I have issues. I'm excited for you, though. That thing I am in love with. I love that you can change needles. Like one gun, and I can have anything from the 2 to a 7 needle, and then they have this spray one that's like at an angle, so you get like a long, not practical for fine art, but I mean, it's kind of neat that you could get these different types. Lori, there's not a way to send me a thumbnail, if that's what you're talking about, but you can tag, if you're on Instagram, if you use hashtag Lachri live, I'll see those when I check them later. Or you can post in the art group. Yeah, the kids with the reference photo thing, I've taught for years, and I used to get that a lot. Or I would get where kids were like, you can't trace things because that's cheating. And it's like, no, it's actually teaching you to draw more accurately. And once they saw what a difference it made in their own artwork, so because the goal of tracing isn't to forever trace, it's to teach, well, for someone like me who can already freehand, it just speeds things up. But for somebody who's learning to draw, it's going to help you to draw things more accurately, faster, so that you can freehand very accurately. And it was always the teenagers who had a hard time understanding that. And once, every time except one, I remember one girl came into my class. I don't even know why she came in. I think her mom was like, oh, you're good at art, but you're kind of a troublemaker, so we're going to get you into some after-school art classes. And so she brought her into my classes. This girl came in telling me how, like, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. And I'm like, I don't know why you're here. Like, if you're not going to take any advice from me, why are you even here? But it's definitely something that's very common with, and I guess we could list that as a myth about art. That's not how art works. You're going to have reference photos if you want to make things realistic. And it'll get to the point, like, I can draw a dolphin without a reference photo. I can get away with it and still make it look pretty good because I've drawn hundreds or painted hundreds and hundreds and hundreds over the years. So there will be animals where, tigers or whatever, if you've painted so many over the years, you'll get to the point where you don't really need a reference photo. But you're talking 20 years of experience. This isn't something that you just instantly like, oh, you're not good if you looked at something. It's like, no, that actually means you know what you're doing if you looked at a reference photo. You actually understand how art works. Curtis said, well, I'm a teenager and I watch your videos, so I should know everything about art. Just kidding. See, you also know everything. Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, I don't mean any disrespect to teenagers. It's just a funny thing about teens. I did the same thing. It's like, I remember looking back at some of the things where I thought, I'm like, I understand how everything in the world works. And it's like, wow, I was not correct on many things. Luckily, we can outgrow it. Sarah said, I don't understand how great artists throughout history, like you said, were looking at something and they worked. But now, all of a sudden, we have artists who have to work from imagination memory. Yeah, I don't know how people don't get that. I mean, we know throughout history that they used models for things. I mean, they had sittings for portraits. The model would have to sit there for hours and hours and hours while the artist painted. Thank God we've got reference photos, so models don't have to sit still for paintings anymore. But I mean, we were looking, there's always been something that you want to look at when you're painting very realistically. And I don't even know that I would argue with my friends about it, like the high school kids. They'll figure it out eventually. Just do your thing, be proud of what you're doing, and know that all of the adults think you're doing awesome. Yeah, and Nancy's right. Nancy said animators often use reference too. Yeah, like Aaron Blaise recently, he was the animator of The Lion King, would be an example. If you don't know who he is, he's one of the main artists for that. He posted a photo of him back in, I think it was in the 90s when he was working on Mulan, and he's like, he had reference photos of different animals. He had like a snake skin hanging over his desk. He had all of this stuff to look at, even for the animation. So when I say animators might not need it, I mean, you know, someone who animates The Simpsons has drawn those characters for so long, they don't really need a reference photo. They're not going for realism. But even then, they've probably got photos of The Simpsons all over their office. But I mean, yeah, like Aaron, he had posted a photo on Facebook, I think. I don't know if it was on anywhere else. But he posted that, and it showed, even though he was animating, but he had reference of the animals that he was using. So yeah, he's making his stylized so it doesn't look exactly like the photo, but he's still using photos. If it's good enough for the animator of The Lion King, it is good enough for me. Okay, I'm gonna pull, let's see. I'm gonna pull darker, going back and forth on how I want to do this. I don't know if I want these colors to be my highlights or the ones that I just did, or if those are going to be the shadows. I think they'll be the highlights. I'll pull some shadows in between with purples and grays. What color did I use? I liked, oh, blue and, okay, I mixed that. Let's just start with this guy. So this right now is going to be too dark for the area that's going to be light, but I can lighten from here. I just want to get a base general idea of where that water, how I want the movement to go. Sarah said, I heard when Leonardo da Vinci was working on The Last Supper, he went onto a street and did a quick sketches of people to take back to his studio to use as reference. That's cool. Townsend says, how do you get so much white, the white contrast of that bird on black paper? So I mentioned this at the beginning. He is not this bright. If you go to my Instagram, one of the last posts that I have is of this guy, and you'll see what he really looks like. This lighting that I use on my easel, In person, it actually looks good. I can see things really, really clearly, but it so overexposes it on the camera, like bad. This down here is actually pretty accurate, but this whole thing up here is so overexposed. He's not that white. He's light, just not that light. So go look at it on Instagram so you get a better idea of what he looks like. But it took several layers, but the whites really do show up quite well. Actually, I don't think I have anything over here that I could compare this. No, I don't have any white paper. Well, this is pretty white. Let's see. How white is that compared to... So, I don't know if you can see this. Let me see if I can make it so you can tell. Hold on. My paper towels with acrylic paint all over them. Let me see really quick. I don't know if you can tell here. The white of the paper up against the bird, when you put it like that, you can really see how much of a darker gray the bird is compared to the white of the paper towel. So it's not as white as it looks. It's, well, in part, it is being overexposed on the video, but a lot of it is just that in contrast to the black, it appears brighter. So whenever you're painting or drawing something, if something seems like, if you're like, I can't get my lights light enough, more often than not, if you make your darks darker, that will correct the problem. It's not that the light colors necessarily need to be lighter, but your darks need to go darker. And that contrast there will give you the look that you're going for. Plus this paper, honestly, things are showing up on this one better. I use the Canson, and I mean, this is Canson too. I use the Canson Meets Hands, just regular paper. My brights did not come out as bright as this one. This board, things are sticking to so nicely. Curtis said, have you been using the Caran d'Ache Pablo pencils recently? I have not. Do I plan on doing a review? I don't have a full set of those yet. I need to get some, but they're not on the top of my list. I have a few, and I like them for working with powder blender on sanded paper. I went to an art convention, and the guy I talked to there with them was kind of like, I don't know, he was just off-putting. He was kind of not the friendliest of people. It was a really weird thing, but because I was considering contacting him and asking about having them send me some for a review, but I don't want to talk to that guy again. He was like really, he was weird. But he was their marketing people. I don't think he actually was like, he wasn't from their main offices. I don't know who he was in the thing, but it was a little bit of an odd conversation, and I haven't been anxious to repeat. But so yeah, I haven't contacted them to see about getting more. So I was going to buy them myself, and they're not on the top of my list of must-haves. I really like them with sanded paper and powder blender for final details, but my other pencils work fine for that too. So I haven't been in a huge rush. I don't like them like when I worked on like Fabriano or any of those. I don't like them at all for that. They're very much like Prismacolor Very Thins are, and I never, even when I use Prismacolor, I never like the Very Thins. They just don't work for my techniques. Now other people love them and get great results, but for how I work, they're just not a good fit. Except when I worked on sanded paper, I did like them on that. Pixby Lee says, Aaron Blaze is awesome. Do you find yourself ever saying, there we go? That's funny. I followed some of his digital painting tutorials. Oh my gosh. I got a bunch of his brushes, and they came with, on his website, they're cheap. His Photoshop brushes are so cheap. But they came with tutorials, and I followed them he's a really, really good teacher. If you want to get into digital painting, oh my gosh, you should have to follow him. Let's see, this gets dark up to here, so this is actually all quite a bit lighter. What brand? All of Senia, all of the pencils, all the supplies I'm using are listed in the video description. Steve Anthony said, thank you, and to everyone for all the advice. This made me feel better. Yeah, you have to, high school's such a funny thing. I wish we had more like mentor type ships that we could do with teenagers, where teenagers could spend time with, like if there was a career they wanted to go into, they could spend time like working in an animal hospital and find out if they even want to be a veterinarian, or, had people that they could talk to more, because you get so caught up in talking to your friends that you start to think that everything they say is correct, and it can kind of skew your view on things. It'd be so nice if we had more mentorships or apprenticeship type things where people could talk to somebody who was in that profession that will give them the reality of the situation, instead of their fellow teenagers making stuff up just because they think they know something. But yeah, whatever it is, try not to let your friends, when you were in high school, don't let your friends discourage you on things, because they probably don't know what they're talking about. Like I said, it's not like anything against teenagers. It's just typical. And when we don't spend a lot of time talking to an adult who works in the field that we're interested in, we're not necessarily getting very good information. So don't let them ever discourage you. Oh, thanks, Senia. How many days do I spend with my art? Hours a day do I spend with art? It depends. I mean, 2 hours a night on Wednesday nights. Wednesdays are my clean the apartment day because I'm my own personal maid. And so I've always said someday I'm going to be rich and I'm going to hire a housekeeper. But I don't know that will ever happen, that I'll do that. Anyway, I don't get, because it's cleaning day and then the live stream. I just have the live stream night for working. But Thursday night, Friday night, those are my main two. I'd say each of those nights are a minimum of 6 hours a night. Occasionally less, but normally they're a lot more work on those. And then Saturday, it depends on if I have my Patreon video, if I got it finished editing, because I've got to edit videos too, and so sometimes that just, Saturdays ends up being just edit all the videos day, but I try to get time in that. And then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday are my husband's days off, and so that's hit or miss if I end up getting artwork done. It depends on if I'm behind, if I was able to get everything done on Thursday and Friday. If not, then I'd add another maybe 4 hours a night on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Sunday, Monday, usually not Tuesday. Tuesday is usually getting everything ready for the live stream and the all of that. So it depends on the day you ask, I guess. Ad said, I am currently drawing. Before you said, get your lights light enough and darks dark enough. I've been saying that in my head. It's one of the main advice of yours that stuck with me. That's good. That's a good thing to have stuck with you. That, and I would say slow down. That's my other piece of advice. And if you have a bad layer, don't panic. It just means you're not finished yet. Keep that in mind too, because it can get so discouraging when you have a layer and you're like, it looks terrible, I hate it, and you just want to give up. It just means you're not done yet. Keep working. And scroll too far. See. Izzy said, any recommendations on studio lighting, please? I'm using one. I think it's in the video description. It's a light I got from Amazon. It was like $50 or $54, and it clamps to my easel, and they have the floor model too. It works so well. I used to use the Ott lights, and those are good. This one is even, this one has more, like I can make it brighter or more dim, and the way that it bends and moves around, this one has been amazing. I really like this light, and it's way cheaper than my Ott light was. But that is listed, it should be listed in the video description, hopefully. Let's see. Tina said, thank you, Lisa. How kind of you to take their pains and talk to talk to us and paint. That's a skill too. Yeah, I used to teach at one of those classes where you drink, or I didn't drink, but the people who took the classes would drink wine while I taught them, and so you get used to working and talking at the same time. That was actually really helpful. Let's see. Lorraine said, I've so enjoyed watching and participating in this. My first live chat. Need to go. Hope to catch another one soon. Bye. Thanks for joining, Lorraine. Sarah Makes Art said, when I was in elementary school, some girls told me I should put off drawing until I grew up and hang out at the mall at that time. Yeah, and how much good was that? Like, hanging out at the mall, that's not very productive. I mean, I guess it teaches you social skills, but I don't know. I've always been one to really just enjoy being at home. Like, when I was younger, I loved crafts, making anything. And I was lucky that my mom, she used to work at this thing called the Harvest Festival, where they traveled around. It was a big festival with different crafters, basically, and it was a big event. You don't really have that specific one anywhere. That one was amazing. But she used to work for a lady who made pressed flowers, or like these different arrangements, floral arrangements and stuff. And so I used to take like the trash basically of the flowers, the discarded stuff, and try to make stuff. I've always loved making stuff. I like to create. So I think that's one of the reasons I like videos too, or making videos on YouTube, because I just like to create things, and making videos is a form of creating too. I've always preferred that to then hang out at the mall. It's like, I'm not accomplishing anything. Says the person who plays Warcraft, so I'm not really accomplishing anything by playing video games either. I like to contradict myself. Fabs and Draw says, would would this piece have fireflies? You know what I'm going to do? Originally, I was thinking, yeah, for sure, and it's probably going to. But once I get everything mostly done, I'm going to take a photo on my phone and use a photo editing app and draw in some fireflies to see if I like how it looks. That way, I don't put them in and change my mind. I think it's going to, but we'll have to wait and see. Curtis said, school is great and totally necessary, but when they don't teach you social skills, real world situations, it's kind of useless, especially when you don't need to know some of the things. Yeah, they definitely, I wish the schools were heavier on some of the stuff. Like, I don't know, I remember a very important lesson for me when I was in, it was like my homeroom class, the economics, and they used to teach you things like, this is how much, and this was back in 95. So they would say, like, in order to afford an apartment, I was in Southern California, the cheapest apartment you're going to need to make, and they went through like what your bills were going to be, everything, and then figured out how much per hour you need to make, and it needed to be a minimum $9.50 an hour. And back then, minimum wage was, I think, $4.50. So you needed to make more than twice what minimum wage was. That was an important lesson to learn, and most of the kids I talk to aren't being taught things like that. They're under the impression that any job they should be able to live off of it, and the schools aren't teaching them, no, you need to either go to school, go to a trade school, you need to teach, get involved in something that's going to pay more if you want to have a comfortable life. And for some reason the schools aren't teaching a lot of the practical, it's just weird to me, a lot of what isn't being taught anymore that was taught to us. And I think for me, that was an important thing to know, because it was like, I was working at a pizza place at the time. In my head, I'm like, I've got a job. I'm going to be able to get an apartment when I graduate. No, not even close. Like, that wasn't going to cut it. I needed to figure out something else, like another, working at the pizza place wasn't a career. So I wish that they taught like stuff like that, like real world type situations a little bit more. I know they encourage kids to go to college, but then that would be a thing too. Like, I think that if they could help them understand, like, okay, if you go get a degree in this is going to yield this kind of an income. This is what you can expect. And I'm talking to a lot of kids, like high school age going into colleges, and they're not being taught a lot of, like, I don't know, I would have thought it was pretty good information. Maybe the schools assume their parents are teaching them, but their parents weren't either. I think it'd be nice if schools were set up in a way that set up students a bit more, like prepared them a bit more for the future versus let's just get these tests and these, like our general curriculum. They're not really, but then again, I guess I'm just thinking out loud, parents can be responsible for teaching their kids that too. But yeah, it's weird to me to talk to kids now, and it's like they have no idea some of these basic concepts of taking care of yourself as an adult. Like, they just weren't taught. It's kind of crazy, the difference. I guess the school you're going to would make a difference too. Maybe some schools are teaching you things I'm not hearing from the students I've talked to. Let's see. Whoops, scrolled too far. Gail said, would you say colored pencil is the slowest medium you work in? By so far. So much. Like, oh yes, I definitely would. Steve Anthony said, do you think the Derwent Lightfast will ever replace your polychromos, and what are the difference? I don't know that any pencil for me is going to completely replace another pencil, because some pencils are going to be better for certain things. Like, my polychromos are going to be one of the best for fine detail because they're a hard pencil. They sharpen to such a fine point. Where the Lightfast pencils, I doubt they're going to end up with 120 colors, because Derwent isn't known for sets that have that many colors. So chances are they're not going to have as many colors as I need anyway. I could be wrong. We have no idea what the next colors are going to look like or how many there will be. But I know originally they were planning on a set of 72, I think. 76, 72. So I don't think there will be enough that it could possibly replace any other one. Now, let's say a student was new to colored pencil. I'm not going to say you have to get the Derwent Lightfast and Polychromos. Pick one and just learn to use that. You can add more pencils if you wanted to later on. But for me, because I already have all of these pencils, I don't see myself completely giving up one for another brand. I like how everything works together, because all of the different pencil brands have their strong points and their weak points. So by combining a lot, I get to take advantage of all the strong points of all of the different pencils. So no, I don't think it would replace it for me, but I do have a feeling when more colors are available, you'll see me using those more than a lot of the other ones, because it's just such a nice balance between wax and oil. It's just a good pencil, but again, not enough colors just yet. Hopefully soon. Thanks, Charlotte. Fabs and Draw says, I teachers at school who says I should continue with art. However, I have family members who disagree. Any suggestions, thought about the issue? That's a hard one. The art can definitely be difficult to really make a living. You need to learn business and marketing. I mean, if you're going to go to school, I would say learn business and marketing because you can apply that to your art. You can take classes and art classes. I mean, maybe some of those in school, but you can learn art. You can do art kind of on the side and apply what you learn from business and marketing. If it ends up taking over, great, but then you've kind of got that backup plan. Because not, and a lot of people, once they get into art, I mean, it's not consistent unless you're teaching. And that's one of the things I think, well, I love teaching anyway, but I mean, art is not, so starting to look like those push pops when you're a kid with the ice creams, the different colors in here. Anyway, art, it's not, like if you're just selling your paintings, it's not easy to get a consistent income that way. And like if you want to start a family and you're supporting that family, obviously you want something more consistent. Health insurance is a big thing because you don't, I mean, I have health insurance through my husband. So, that can be a bit of a challenge. You know, you've got to think about all of the pros and cons to everything and what your goals are. Your family is not wrong to encourage you to have kind of a backup plan because unless you want to go into teaching and then you're going to have that more stable income. But just like selling your art, being an artist and selling it, yes, it can absolutely be done. Lots of people do. It's not easy. And a lot of artists don't have the right mindset of, or self-discipline. We have a tendency to be terrible at marketing. We have there are things that, like being a creative, we have a tendency to not be good at the side that makes us the money. So going to school, if you go to school, getting into business and marketing may be a really good thing to do because you have that to fall back on, that you don't have to use it for art, but you can also use it for your art. So, whatever you learn there, you can use it to sell your art. Maybe you will decide that you're going to do that, but it's kind of a nice in between. Learning IT things is really good. Learning things when it comes to, design and a lot of this comes back to marketing. You can use for your art, but you can also use it for other vocations if you decided art wasn't going to be the best fit for you or for what your needs are. You definitely want to keep your options open and look into all the pros and cons of everything. Maybe make a list of all the pros and cons of everything. A lot of people decide they want to be artists, but they don't realize how many times you're going to struggle to pay your bills. Not all the time. You will get to the point where, if you work harder and you do good with the business and marketing side of things, you'll get to the point where you can pay, paying your bills isn't a real problem. But there are many, many years that it is going to be a huge challenge. So you have to decide if that's something that you want to deal. Is that going to take away from the fun of art? For me, it never did. For me, I was okay. I mean, I went through years where I was below poverty line with my income. It was worth it to me because this is like, I was just so passionate about it and this was just such a fit for me. But are you going to be okay with that? With having times where you're not doing so well financially, trying to get paintings to sell. And then you'll have times where it does great. Is that something, a list? I'd make a list, a pro and con list, and business and marketing. Even if you do decide like art's definitely where you want to go, really focus on those business classes. That's, not only is that then something that you can use to fall back on, it's something you can use for the art. Like, I understand where family is coming from when they're afraid when an artist is like, I'm going to be an artist when I grow up. It's kind of like that. I'm going to be a musician when I grow up. Not that many people learn to make a good living that way. So I understand where your family is coming from, for sure. But I also, as an artist, well, I'm teaching, so there's that side of it. I understand that passion of, I want to be an artist. So maybe being an art teacher is an option. Maybe, again, the business and marketing side, and kind of do both. And a lot of artists, like we just interviewed on the Colored Pencil podcast, Barbara, she's an amazing artist. If you check out the recent one, I've got links in my recent email newsletter, and I know it's uploaded to YouTube now. But she does both. She has a professional full-time job. It is, she does design and she does all of these things that are very artistic, but she also does art on her own. So she's getting the best of both. She's got a stable income and she gets to go home and do her own art, but also is in an artistic field that she may be a good person to talk to. So to look into. Let me see. The Painted Hairbrush said, when drawing out a reference, what tips do you have about lighting? Currently working on colored pencil piece, but no reference, and I'm having a hard time where I should put the shadows. Well, my tip is to have a reference. That's what, like, I don't work on anything without a reference. Now, to be fair, sometimes I have a reference photo that doesn't have interesting lighting, and I kind of make that up as I go along, but that came with experience of having done lighting so many times. It made it easier. When you're first learning, have a good reference photo. You're going to learn so much more and so much faster if you're working from a reference photo than if you're determined to work without one. You're not going to learn the same amount of things. So I don't really have many tips for you on that other than get a reference, or even like, okay, so you're drawing without a reference right now. Let's say you're drawing butterflies. Find reference photos of butterflies, even though they're not the same as yours. Look at how the lighting is on those and then apply some of that to your own work. Get reference photos. I don't recommend drawing without reference photos. Not if you're drawing realistically. Pamela Green said, when using polychromos and Caran d'Ache, which one should be used first? It doesn't matter. It absolutely, test it on a scratch piece of paper to see what happens, but it's not like oil over acrylic where it has to be acrylic first and then oil on top. It makes no difference. I work back and forth, sometimes based on this is the color I want, so that's why I'm going to choose this pencil first. Sometimes based on I need something to be more opaque, or I need to have smoother blending, so I'm going to choose the wax-based pencil first. It really, you can go either way. There's not like a rule that it has to be one or the other. Sarah said, I thought of you when I got a totally different reaction from my mom when I showed her the same painting with a little and then sharp contrast. Yeah, it's crazy what having good contrast will make in your work. CDS said, I am curious to know how what your routine is like. What time do you wake up on a regular workday, and then how does your entire day go until you hit bed at night? Well, it depends on the day. Like today, most days I wake up about 12:30 p.m. I'm up until between 5 and 6 a.m. every day. I'm mostly nocturnal. So okay, this needs to dry, so I'm going to come back here and get some of the highlights while we chat. Let's see, what pencil do I want? This one will work. Let's see. Trying to think. So I wake up at like 12:30. On Wednesday, I immediately start cleaning. I have my coffee, and then I start cleaning, and then have to do my makeup, get everything ready, take a nap. I take a nap by 4 on Wednesdays, and then get ready for the live stream. After the live stream tonight, I'm going to probably go grab chicken, and we are going to do some World of Warcraft dailies. And then, oh, that didn't sharpen right. After that, I don't know, the rest of my night, usually Wednesdays, because the live streams are really exhausting, like weirdly exhausting to do. So I don't do a whole lot else Wednesday nights. I'll probably read for a bit. But my, like Thursday, I'll get up again at about 12:30. I talk to my mom on the phone every day, every work day from like 1:30 p.m. Like she calls me on her walk every day. So I talk to her for like 20 minutes every day. And then I've got the Colored Pencil podcast to record. We're interviewing someone tomorrow. After that, I've got to start editing videos, and then by tomorrow night, I should be back to work on this. I need to try to finish this project by Friday night so that I can record the intro, and then Friday is about the same other than the podcast. I've got to try to record Patreon by Saturday in order to get the video up on time, or have it done by then. So Friday and Saturday I normally do, or I'm sorry, Thursday and Friday are my biggest two art days. I also need to get one of the Smart Art Box, the October Smart Art Box, I didn't get finished yet, or done at all yet. So I need to do that tomorrow. I'm trying to think what else I've got to get done. I've got a few things on my website I need to change. I need to update. I'm going to change the way I have artwork for sale on my website. I've got just a few things that I've got to do like that. Like I get a lot of in-between things on those days in addition. So usually in the first half of the day, I do office work type things, whether it be like, well, the podcast or writing out lists or like the email newsletter, getting things written out and ready for that. Saturday is record the voiceover for Patreon. That takes a long time. What else do I do? Editing. It depends on if I'm on time or not for the videos. I need to edit some videos for YouTube still. Sundays, I get errands done in the first half of the day, and usually in the last half of the day, like I'll take my nap at around 7 p.m. And I know my hours are weird. And then when I wake up, I get up and get back to artwork. So that's pretty much how most of my days go. But I could ramble with the days, and I think that it gets boring. That's like the best I think I can summarize it. It's already boring. I'm boring myself, and it's my day. Let's see. No, Sarah, I've not watched that. I don't actually watch much TV at all. Mostly I listen to audiobooks. Let's see. Kenya said, can you give us some advice for drawing? Practice and draw more. That is my advice. I mean, that's kind of a generalized, like, how do you drive a car? I don't even know how to begin on answering that. But draw more. That is my biggest piece of advice. Draw, and then draw more, and then draw more, and draw more, and more. Like, the more you draw, the better. I know it's not what you're looking for, but it's probably the best piece of advice I can give you. Rich said, sorry I was gone for a while. I was watching TV and eating dinner. Unacceptable. I want dinner now. I have a sweet potato waiting for me. DJ said, great advice for the young artist. Marketing years to get the skills is so true. Yeah, in marketing, I wish I knew more about marketing when I was younger. I think it would have made a big difference. I mean, that wasn't something that anyone really ever talked about. Now, a lot of the marketing advice you can get online too. So let's say you're out of school years, you don't want to go back to school. You can still look up tons of marketing advice on podcasts, and I wouldn't say look up marketing advice for artists. Those are usually not the most useful. Look up just generalized marketing because you're going to apply that to selling art. I mean, marketing applies to everything. So, yeah, you can look up a lot of that stuff and start learning about it now. And marketing changes. I mean, from year to year, you're going to have different ways that that it's best to market certain things. So, you want to keep up on researching that stuff anyway. Marketing is I really wish I knew more about it earlier on in my career. Gail said, I love the Colored Pencil podcast. I'm currently binding all of the podcasts. Perfect for and I'm drawing too. I think binging all the podcasts? Binging. I am not reading that right because it's late and I'm tired. Mara Black said, I hope you didn't throw out your other background drop cloth. I miss it. What other... Oh, no, I keep that. I actually pull that up. Like if I do an acrylic pour, I put it under whatever it is because stuff doesn't really soak through it. I use that thing all the time. I don't use it for a backdrop anymore, but I use it. Gail said sunrise is noon. Yay, night people. See, it's not just me. Rich said, it's so fun hearing you and playing Mario Kart 8. I have never played Mario Kart. I feel like I'm missing out. I don't play console. I play, the PC game mostly. My husband plays console games. I don't know if he has that, though. Sarah McStart said, Don't Stay in School is a YouTube video. Oh, no, I've not seen it. Brent said, speaking of the October Smart Art Box, please tell me you have a dip pen. A dip pen? You mean, was it supposed to come in the box? I'm not sure. I don't know if I have. I have no idea. I have so many art supplies in my dresser thing over here. I don't even know what's in there. If I have one, it would have been from a previous Smart Art Box. It's not something I ever would have bought, so... I'm curious how this is going to go where these highlights, actually that doesn't highlight much more on that side. Just stick with this side. I either need to sharpen my pencil. I'm going to try the Caradosh Full Blender Bright. I'm going to see how much this smooths out or if I just need to sharpen my white pencil more. Chelsea said, I keep hearing a weird noise, and then I realize you have a wind chime. Well, I hope that's what it was. In my room alone. Oh, that would be creepy. Yeah, I've got wind chimes going outside, and it's been kind of windy. I love listening to that wind chime. I have to, when it gets too windy, though, I'm in an apartment. I don't want to drive my neighbors crazy, so I have to turn or tie it down. Let's see. Oh, this is blending kind of nice just for these edges. So this is the Caran d'Ache, their Full Blender Bright. It's basically just the wax portion of the pencil. And I'm burnishing just along the edge of where I put that white because the white's a little grainy gritty. I don't want this over the black because it does have a foggy look to it. But this is smoothing out that transition on that straight line that I put pretty well. It's funny, I've had this thing for years and I didn't like it for very many things. And recently I found a few things that it just works really nicely on. This is one of them. Hello, Shiny said wind chimes kill me. Yeah, a lot of people don't like, I'm surprised at how many people don't like wind chimes. I absolutely love them. They make me so happy, but I never claimed to be a normal person. Okay, I need to start getting some darks in here. Oh, we're at 9:50. I'm actually going to just turn this off. I'm going to be done drawing for the night, so you'll see this all finished up when it's all finished. But I'll go, if you guys have a couple of extra questions, I can take those before we end. Fabs and Draw says, when we do pursue the art field, what are your recommendations of the many baskets we should have? Everything. I mean, the more you're able to get, like, the more of those baskets to put your eggs in, the better. Because if one fails, like if you're teaching, let's say you're teaching at Michael's. I was teaching at Michael's for years. My classes were going really well. And the day we moved to Texas was the exact same day. So yeah, coincidence, but it was the exact same day Michael's completely got rid of all their fine art classes. I wouldn't have had a job. I would have been done with teaching. I don't know where I would have taught because there was no Hobby Lobby in California there at the time. So that was my only basket, what do you do? I mean, you panic, and you don't pay your bills, and you call your mom crying, asking for a loan. But done that. So having just the one is not a good idea, even if that just one, because those classes were doing pretty well for me at Michael's at the time. And when I came here, I started up a class at Hobby Lobby, but it takes a long time to build up a student following in a new location. So I was not making very much money for a really long time when I first moved here. But you also, like for art, sell prints. You're going to, and teaching isn't for everybody, but if it is for you, that is a really good way to go. Selling prints, selling your art you can sell on eBay, you can sell on Etsy, you can sell on your own website. Your own website is harder to get traffic to, so keep that in mind. So I'm changing some of mine up. But you've got to, as many baskets as possible, basically. As many different places, different sources of income. For me, YouTube. I mean, YouTube helps. Patreon is amazing. Being able to teach online is a really big thing. So having that online presence is really helpful with art. I mean, the more you can find, the better, because now, if one drops, you're not completely in a panic. Now, for me, the majority of mine comes from Patreon, so that would be really scary for me if something happened with Patreon. Yeah, I have other baskets, but they're not anywhere near what Patreon does. So that's a little scary. So I've got to make sure I'm diversifying my income sources quite a bit. But yeah, the more the better, that's for sure. Kenya said, how do you blend? You have the most generalized questions. They're a little bit challenging because there's too much information to give you. With me, I'm mostly blending, and I've got lots and lots of videos. Well, one, you can back this video up and see how I've been blending. I blend mostly with odorless mineral spirits, and it's like a type of paint thinner that's odorless. And I use a brush. I get lots of layers down, use a brush like this, and blend over it. Now, if you go to the front page, of my YouTube channel, I have videos there showing you how to blend with colored pencil and breaking it down. Like, it's not something that's easy just to answer in a question, because there's way too much information to give you without just showing you. So look up those videos, because I've got a lot of videos showing you exactly how to do that. And there's so many different ways to blend. But yeah, backing up, this video shows you how I'm blending. So you'll see that, where I'm blending with OMS and lots of layers, and I talk a lot about that. Rich said, your timing is perfect when you live stream because I live in California. Nice. What area do you live in? I lived in Rancho Cucamonga, so it's like the 15 just above the Ontario, or what, a bit above the Ontario airport. Oh my gosh, itchy nose, please stop. Lynn said, when did you start Patreon in your career? That was, I think, it was like November of 2014. Is when that started. Itchy nose. And so I had been on YouTube making videos since like 2012, but not super serious until maybe 2013, and then Patreon came 2014. Okay, I think having the door open is bad. My allergies, like my nose, I just want to scratch like crazy. Gail, see? I knew I liked you. Gail likes the wind chimes. Let's see. Ad said, how do you feel about selling prints on print-on-demand sites like Redbubble, Zazzle, and so on? I sell on Fine Art America, and it's not going to get you rich or anything. I mean, it's not going to be your sole income, but I like it. I think it's a really good way to go because you don't have to do the shipping. You don't have to deal with, like, if there's a return, if something's damaged in the post office, if any of that. Like, they deal with all of that for you. You just upload your image, and so, no, I'm a huge fan of it. I've been using Fine Art America, or I think they call it Pixels now, for years, and it's not a lot, it's not very much at all, but it's, well, because I don't advertise, I don't tell people that often, I don't really push the fact that I have prints. I'm going to work on changing that in the originals, but I always say I'm going to start advertising those more, and I never do, but we'll see. But no, those are definitely a good way to go. And the nice thing with those is it doesn't cost a bunch of money up front. Like for me, I think I pay like $30 a year so I can have lots and lots of prints. But most people, when you're getting started, you can do the free version, if it's the same as what it was when I started, with Fine Art America. And you're not putting out a bunch of money to have the prints made, because before I started selling with them, I would have prints made through like Vistaprint, and then I had to deal with the fact if the print, half the time the print didn't come out good. Vistaprint has a tendency to print things way too dark sometimes, but back then I was having trouble with things becoming damaged, and then I had to buy them initially, and it was just costing me a lot of money, and then I'd have to deal with matting them and shipping them and all of that, and now Fine Art America does all of that for me, and so that's a lot of work that I don't have time to do. So it's perfect. All I have to do is upload, put the description and all of that, and get the good. I have to have a good photo, but I'm a fan. It is a big fit for me because I know of a lot of people who do sell prints, and that myself included. When I used to do the prints myself, I wasn't printing them myself. I mean, I was having them printed through Vistaprint, and then I was the one shipping them. It was so much work, and I wasn't making any more money than I do through Fine Art America. So. And with Fine Art America, you're not going to, like, people don't really find you on there and then buy the print. You send them to the print, that you have prints over there. My back is starting, you can tell it's getting towards the end of the night. But you send them there, like you advertise on your website or on social media, and that you send the people to go make the order. But it's not like eBay where people find you through eBay and make the purchase there. You really need to be advertising on your own. It's not going to do much for you otherwise. Let's see. Rich wants to know if acrylic paint needs OMS. No, you do not use OMS on acrylic paint ever. Acrylic paint, just water. Or, I mean, you can use a mixing medium if you want that, but never OMS. That's just for oils. Fabsundra says, throughout high school, I didn't have another art buddy. Do you ever experience this? Yeah, I didn't have many people involved with art. Like, my friends really weren't. I mean, in my art class, there were friends there, but no one I hung out with on my own. None of my friends were really into art at all when I was in high school. Yeah, not at all. And now, I mean, I have art friends now, but I don't really spend a whole lot of time with other people. I'm mostly in my studio working. But, I mean, I have friends I talk to that are artists. Like, I mean, I talk to Lena Daniel quite often. I talk to a few other friends that are artists. Jason Morgan. Trying to think of some of my other art friends. My friend Jimmy, the dressmaker, who he did the dress on the Beetlejuice dress. He's working on learning drawing just for his design. He's more art and like designing fashion. So he's probably the only person I hang out in person who is an artist. I have one other artist friend. I haven't seen her in months, but normally I don't have, I've never really had many artist friends. Now I probably have more than ever before. Rich said, I live in the SB County, San Bernardino? Is that what your SB, or is SB standing for something else? Because I think technically in Rancho, I was in San Bernardino, but I was like borderline LA San Bernardino. I grew up in Claremont, which was LA County. Let's see. Good night, Mara. Gail said, I can't hear. Oh, that scrolled too far. I can't hear. Where did that just go? Can't hear your wind chimes, but I love wind chimes too. See? I think we all need to band together and like start a hashtag wind chimes are cool movement. I don't know. DJ said, thank you for the wonderful stream. Finally got to see it this time. Thanks for joining. Ursis said, another wonderful show and stream. Thanks, Ursis. Lynn Mitchell said, I do use fine art too. Yeah, I've been happy with their site. Art by Jacob said, how do you decide on what to paint or draw next? How do you narrow your reference photo, and what medium do you use for a new piece? For me, the medium largely is that I try to rotate it, mainly because of Patreon, because I know I've got people there that are only interested in acrylic, and then I've got people who are only interested in colored pencil. And while each of the Patreon videos, I do talk about things that would apply no matter what medium you're working in. So like I have people who have been following me who only, on Patreon, who only use pastels, and I never did until recently. And even that was just pan pastels, not pastel pencils. So I try to make sure, while I do try to make sure it's going to be advice that can be used in any medium, I do know that I've got a lot of people who sign up only for one. So I try to rotate it so everybody gets something that month. So like if I did colored pencil after this one, the next one definitely won't be colored pencil, because I want to make sure I'm trying to keep everybody happy as much as possible. So the next one was oil painting. I just recently did one. So that's kind of my thing, is like, what haven't I done recently so that I can have a good variation on Patreon. If it weren't for that, it would just be by what was interesting me that time. And I would go through phases before this where it was like, all I wanted to do were like 3 or 4 acrylic paintings, and then I'd get bored with that. And now I want to do a whole bunch of oils, and now I want to do a whole bunch of colored pencil. And I would go through these phases like that. Now I just try to keep making sure that I'm alternating. As far as narrowing it down to the reference photo, it's really what just caught my eye. And it's funny because like I've had this reference photo for months, and it didn't interest me until last week or the week before, whatever it was. Week before that, I don't know. Randomly something will catch my eye, and I look at it and it's like, I know what I want to do with that. I've got the perfect project for this. Or it's just like, I knew in this case too, I needed to do colored pencil this week. So what would be a good fit? And I wanted to do something, I wanted to try the black paper. And so just trying to find a project that I thought would fit on the black paper, or be a good fit for this type of paper. So that was, it varies. There's no one answer of like, I choose it based on the season or the phase of the moon. Like it's not, it changes constantly, but those are some of the factors that will make me decide something. Or I just randomly have an idea, like the one with the lion and the fish and the coral that I'm going to work on. That was just a random idea that I'm all excited about now. And I have to make sure that I do it next, because if I wait too long when I have an idea like that, I just won't end up doing it. And I've done that several times where I had these like crazy ideas that I wanted to do, but I got busy doing something else first, and I never got to the crazy idea. So I need to do the crazy idea instantly, will almost always get bumped up next. Otherwise, I just never get to it. I'm really bad about that. Whoops. I need to try pyrography. I know, actually, in Valerie, and her link is in the video description, by the way, along with all the moderators. But Valerie does wood burning, and it is amazing. Like, she does some of the most gorgeous work. Margine grew up in Costa Mesa. That's actually a nice area, isn't it? If I'm remembering correctly. I haven't been down there in a long time, but I remember Costa Mesa being really nice. Okay, we are done for the night. Oh wait, one more from Fabs and Draws. When selling your artwork, is it best to slowly increase the price further down the year and advertise that, or have it reduced price method? I don't recommend ever reducing the price on your art. I don't recommend having sales on your art. Like sales on, like let's say you did an art lesson. A sale on that's one thing. A sale on a book that you wrote is one thing. I don't agree with doing sales on artwork, because if somebody, like, let's say somebody bought this for $900. I don't know what the price would be. I haven't looked out the chart. But let's say they paid $900 for this one, and they see that I had a sale. There's 2 parts to this. One, they see me giving a discount or a sale to somebody on something very similar a week later or 2 weeks later, and a lot of people will get really frustrated with like, you're devaluing my artwork. Like I paid a certain amount, the value should go up. You start lowering your price and you're devaluing the other artwork. Like that's not a good practice to get into. Plus, then you have people who will just wait around for a sale. They're like, I'm not going to buy this because it's a high-end item. I'll just wait for a sale if they know you have sales. So, and then the funny thing is, most artists that I've known of who had sales. Now, sales on prints is one thing. I have no, like that I'm okay with, because that's not devaluing the artwork. But original artwork, buyers don't like when the prices when their art, like, don't devalue what they just bought, because this is an investment to them in many cases, and that's not something you want to see drop. It can definitely upset collectors. But yeah, I definitely would say start low and raise, but don't start high and lower. It's just not a good idea with art in most cases. Let's see. Gail said, thanks for the art journal suggestion. Really great idea, pun. Yeah, I'm gonna, journal thing, I'm super, like, I'm enjoying doing that, and that's when I want to definitely share when I get more in there. But that's, I've got my lion in there, and I had so many elements, whether it be the color of the background, like so many things I keep thinking about, and now I can just jot it down really quick in that journal. It's, well, it was on my desk. Oh, it's over there now. But it's like usually right at hand. So it's working out really nicely for me. I used to keep one, it didn't have handwritten notes. It was just like the sketch drawn out. I do want to share that one day. So I used to do that, but now I'm adding notes in addition, and I'm really liking it. Art by Jacob said, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, you should be signed up for my email newsletter. Every week, once a week, I send out an update on what the live stream is going to be, when it is going up, with a link to it, and art motivation and tips like this week that was talking about using an art journal and how helpful that can be. So see, you should be signed up. Link should be in the video description. Shameless plug. Art by Jacob said, how long does the sketching process take? It depends, because sometimes I freehand, sometimes I use a projector. It depends on what mood I'm in. So if I sketch something, if I want it, like if it's going to be a portrait, I'm going to spend like 8 hours getting it perfect, because I do it super slow, get everything perfect before I get started. So I'm probably looking at 8 hours. If I use a projector, in the end result, projector or sketching, it's going to look exactly the same. You're not going to be able to tell the difference, but the projector is only going to take me like 5-10 minutes. So, you know, there's that. It depends on which way I'm going and what I'm drawing. A portrait, like a person, I'm going to spend longer on getting everything accurate. Like a pelican, it needs to be close, but I can be a little off and it's okay. Like, none of the feathers are even exact to my reference photo. Well, some are close, but not exact. So it just depends on what it is. Oh, Santa Barbara's SB County. Sorry. See, I'm thinking, because I'm closer to San Bernardino, so that's what, or I was, that's what instantly came to my head. Thanks, Jenny. Susan said, of course, you could always shred your art. What? No shredding artwork. Okay. All caught up. We are finishing, or going to go ahead and be done for tonight. Thank you so much for joining, and I'm hoping, I'm not positive, hoping next week will either probably be the Smart Art box. There's a chance of that. Actually, there's a good chance of that. Maybe. Or it'll be starting that new acrylic painting, or the lion. I honestly don't think I'm going to be ready for that one yet. So I don't know what next week is, but it will be at 8 p.m. Central Time, unless something weird comes up next Wednesday. Thanks again for joining, and make sure to check out the moderators' channels. They are in the video description.